Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Simuleos. I am sorry about the technical difficulties that we just had. So here's basically what happened. I started the stream, right? And basically when I started the stream, there was some sort of weird issue with the audio and video. I don't know what the deal was. It was just like for some reason not recording my audio at all after starting the stream. So I rebooted my computer and then I had to recheck the audio and video latency. So now I'm back. I'm hoping there aren't any issues. There's probably still some latency issues. There's always some latency issues, but like every time I check it on my own computer before uploading it to Twitch, it's fine. I was thinking of some solutions in order to fix this problem. I don't know. Sorry overflow count. Your current sorry count is negative 2.147.483.648. Huh. Interesting. C252 JSPP. Mike, thank you guys so much for coming in. And again, I apologize for the technical mishap that we just had. It happens. Hey, Fulster, thanks for coming in. Okay, so Circumoto, hey, how are you? So I think that's all it is for the update. Let's see. I guess I want to very quickly, before getting started on the FFT stuff, just go to the Algorithm Archive site. Or Algorithm Archive GitHub repository, and then we go from there. Who needs unsigned variables anyway? Yeah, I find it really weird. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I understand this is Europe and everything, but I still find the points, the decimal points being used as indicators of millions and thousands, I find that really weird. Like, it's just, I'm not used to it. So I know it happens all the time, I'm just definitely not used to it. Okay, so let's do pull requests. We got an extra pull request over here. Again, I said before I'm not going to be going through pull requests on stream, and I'm sticking to that. I'm not going to be doing pull requests on stream simply because of the things mentioned yesterday. I think it's hard for me to do pull requests on stream just because they take like stupidly long to do, and we just don't get enough done. Writing templates, yeah, okay, fair enough. What I wanted to do was actually go to the projects over here. I just realized Scratch code in the Algorithm Archive needs to be updated to Scratch 3. Yep, that's not my job. That is GA's job. We should probably mention that to him or something like that, but we'll see. I want to go to the master overview real quick, actually, is what I want to do. So right now, we have, let's see, schedule convolutions, in process kind of. We're working on the FFT chapter, right? In my country, we also use period for marking thousands and comma for the decimal point, but at this point, I'm used to doing it either way. Yeah, it's just, as someone who's coming from the US, it's weird that it's different, and I don't understand why it's different. Actually, let me, decimal point. I'm just going to Google decimal point real quick. I can update Scratch code, and it won't be hard. Yeah, so the issue is if you update the Scratch code, you actually have to update the, let me go there, Algorithm Archive. Oh, hello there. Algorithm Archive here. If you go to, I'm going to guess there's something for bubble sort in Scratch. Scratch. Where is it? Scala, Swift, maybe it's not, maybe Euclidean algorithm. Let's try Scratch. Don't see it. Wait, where? Tree traversal then. Scratch. There we go. Okay. If you do it in Scratch, you've got to basically update all of the SVG files. And that's a bit weird. So I'm not sure how he initially wrote these SVG files. So we need to kind of figure out how that's done. I think there was a library that allowed for him to do this type of drawing. I'm not sure exactly. So I need to talk to him about how he did that before we go any further. Let's see. All right, let me look at the decimal point here. No, I want to look at the like etymology of the decimal point. Data, digit group, Unicode characters, examples of use, other numeral systems, Arabic numerals, digit grouping. No, this isn't going to tell me, like, it's just going to give me like a decimal point. Let's see, data versus mark. Nope, that doesn't help. Anyway, I was hoping I could find some sort of like, some sort of unique indicator as to why it's a comma in some places and a decimal point in others, but I don't think I'm going to be able to find that. I think it's just, it is what it is. It's just a comma and decimal point depending on where you go, which is totally fine, I guess. Maybe it's a language thing, like maybe German, for example. Scroll down, there's an interesting picture. Scrolling. This, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, you're right, that is quite interesting. Okay, so these guys use dot, let's see. So Canada uses both. Let's see. The dot is used in, obviously, the US. Yeah, I'd say it's probably, I mean, I guess you guys are right. Maybe more people use the comma than the dot, but the dot is still used. I mean, it's a pretty even split. No matter how you do it, it's a pretty even split. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's see. A lot of places use both. Some places use this, which I'm not sure what that is exactly. Okay, nice. So this isn't just an America thing. This is a, you got China and India, you won. Yeah, that's true. Actually, what are the most populated countries in the world? I know China and India are the top two, but I don't actually know which ones populated countries in the world. What do we have here? Population by country, 2018. This is pretty up to date. Let's see what we got here. China, India. I knew those were the top two. Followed by the U.S. Okay. I thought that something else was before China, India, and the U.S., but okay, fair enough. I didn't know what it would be, and I certainly wouldn't have thought it would be Indonesia. I had no idea Indonesia had so many people in it. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, this means that the southeast region. Let me just go world map, and let me take a look here. But look at the difference. U.S. is nothing compared to. Yeah, I completely agree. Like here, they literally have 1 billion people more than the U.S. does. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, whatever. This is a clickable map. It doesn't really matter. No, that's not what I wanted. That's an ugly map. I wanted a good-looking map. Give me a good-looking map, man. Ma? What is a ma? I don't know what that is. All right, let's keep going. Whatever. It doesn't really matter that much. So I just wanted to... What is this? Okay, it doesn't matter. Indonesia's down here, right? So I don't know much about Indonesia. I know China. I know people from China. I know people from India. I don't know anyone from Indonesia. I was thinking M-A-W, not M-A. Give me a good looking map, Mom. I'm sorry. I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, okay. So China, India, Indonesia. What else do we have here? I know that I'm kind of... Brazil? Yeah, I've definitely met people from Brazil before. But again, like, we're talking about so few people compared to up here. You're completely right there. You said ma, not moo? What? M-A-W. Ma. Like, what up, ma? I mean, like, this is... I hear that all the time. Like, M-A-A maybe? I'm not really sure how to spell it. But, like, I've heard it before. Like, it's like, what up, dog type of thing? What up, lol? That type of thing. L-A-W-L? Lol? What up, lol? Something like this. LOL, what does LOL stand for? Smash Bros. LOL shock? What? What up, LOL? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ma is also a very common Chinese surname, I believe. Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, this is kind of crazy when you think about it. Yearly change, 0.35%. Russia. Japan is up there, though. I'm actually surprised at how high Japan is, considering it's got a very low, like, it's dropping by 0.26% every year. China, India. It is absolutely remarkable how fast these countries are growing. And it just goes to show you, I mean, the world in like 10, 20 years is going to be really just dramatically different than the world that we're in now. And I think it's going to be majorly like decided between China and India. You know what I mean? Like these countries are, I mean, they're the next ones up. And I think we're just going to have to make way for them as they come by. You should see world fertility rate. I'll take a look at that actually. I'm quite interested. Because the world fertility rate I know is quite low for China. I'm not China, for Japan. World fertility rate. Bet Japan or Indonesia probably has the highest population land ratio. I don't know if that's true for Japan. I feel like Japan has... I bet Indonesia does. I bet you Indonesia does. But I think Japan it's okay. At least so far as I'm aware. It seems fine. Sorry. Let's see, fertility rate, birth per woman. Okay. I mean, I guess that's expected, but I'm looking for per country in like a better image than that. Total fertility rate, let's see what we have here. Here's kind of what I'm looking for. That's actually quite impressive. 7 to 8, do we have any 7 or 8s? I don't think we do, but 6 to 7 per person. I assume that's what that is. It's kind of crazy. 0 to 1, yeah, that's kind of what you expected. Let's see, ooh, hello there. Now the question is this map of country fertility rate, is the fertility rate defined by, like, is it, no, it has to be 6 to 7, it has to be 6 to 7 per couple. Like it has to be, each woman is giving birth to 6 or 7 people, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. That's a huge number. Chris did don't even bother trying to pronounce that. Made a very informative video about overpopulation and why it's not going to be such a big deal. Yeah, I think I may have watched that. I'm not really sure. But I do know that as far as overpopulation is concerned, I'm not worried about overpopulation. I'm worried about cultural shifts. You know what I mean? Like right now, I mean, I know I'm coming from a very biased perspective as a white male from the United States of America, right? But as someone who is as someone who's coming from a very Western perspective, the idea of China and the idea of India taking over, not taking over, but like kind of becoming the new cultural norm is very concerning to me. Not that I'm more concerned about China than I am India, because I know a lot of Indian people, and honestly, I've never met an Indian person I didn't like. They're all incredibly nice people, and I've met a lot of Chinese people, and don't get me wrong, I like every Chinese person I've met. They're incredibly nice, but I mean, I'm just, as someone who's from the U.S. perspective, I'm a little biased here, and I'm a little bit worried about what the world's going to look like in 10 years, you know? Because, you know, China does some things that are disconcerting, you know? Like, for example, they tend to often, like, for example, block GitHub, or, you know, they have their own, you know, Google thing instead of Baidu, and whether you like or dislike Google, the fact that they have their own competition, which is Baidu, is still a little bit weird. It's just like they always take things that everyone else takes for granted, and then they subtly change it. You know what I mean? Did you just hit a piano? No, I didn't. I just this desk is made of metal, so sometimes when I hit it, it makes weird. Trying to meet Chinese people in Atlas. I don't know what Atlas is. I don't like the idea of China being world dominate like the U.S. is right now. Yeah, this is it. It sounded like piano. Yeah, so it's not a piano. My desk is just made of metal, so when I hit it, it makes weird noises. Yeah, so I completely agree with you. I like India. India's super nice. It's just China, to me, I'm a little worried about China. Not necessarily like where it is, but where it's going, you know? I'm just worried about it. And don't get me wrong, like, I understand that I'm probably worried about nothing. It's probably fine, but, you know, I'd rather have China than the U.S., I guess. The U.S. was pretty invasive in its time. Yeah, I guess you could say that. You can think of it exactly the same thing from another point of view. My country has been consumed by USA culture for a very long time, and I don't like how their mostly capitalistic and consumerist ideals have taken over my country. I agree with that, too, to some extent. It's a recent failed MMO. Chinese took it over, killing everyone non-Chinese. What? Whoa, what? So, again, my problem with China isn't... my problem with China has nothing to do with the consumerist or anti-consumerist views. It has nothing to do with socialism versus capitalism. My problem with China is its invasion of privacy. That's the thing I don't like about China. I don't like the fact that, you know, you have these competing services. I don't like the fact that you have like a social value associated with each individual with each individual person, depending on how well they respect or align themselves to the main party of China. Like, there's just a lot of weird things that come about in China that I wouldn't have come about in the U.S. or don't come about in the U.S. And this is something that, you know, you just have to kind of look at. Yeah, right, the social value thing is weird. Invasion of privacy. Yeah, invasion of privacy is fine. But, like, it's fine if you agree to it. Like, again, Google is something that you don't have to use. You can use DuckDuckGo. You could use something else. But China is way more invasive, and they also don't support open source software at all. They are completely against GitHub. GitHub is blocked in China. You know, same with, you know, Facebook. Or is Facebook blocked? Yeah, Facebook I think is blocked. There's just a lot of things that are just weirdly blocked because they don't align with the views of the state. And whether you like or dislike the US, at the very least, the idea of freedom of speech is very well understood. And so whether you like or dislike it, you know, people will defend your freedom of speech, you know, and that's just not true in China all the time. And so that's something you have to kind of work with. I hate how Google didn't want to collaborate with China's censorship, and now they're working with them. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I agree that there's a whole bunch of crap going on with censorship. I agree that, you know, in an ideal world, everything would be open source and we wouldn't have to spy on people. And I agree with you. It sucks that we're in this world, but I don't want it to get worse, is what I'm saying. Snake, one MLG, weird, one may even say wrong. It depends. I mean, the thing is, I'm not going to say China is wrong, because it's a different world. It's fundamentally a different culture that I just don't understand so much. You know, I do feel like I appreciate and understand most of Indian culture. Like, not most of Indian culture, but I do, to some extent, I have an appreciation for their culture. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I understand most of it. I'm not going to say I agree with most of it, but I will say I understand it, and I like almost every Indian I've ever met. Wait, 5 to 10 years, James. The old www will return. Wait, what's the old www? I hate how Google didn't want to collaborate. Google is a capitalist company, after all. I find it funny that my last message didn't show up on IRSSI. Wait, it didn't? What? That sounded exactly like a piano. Let me see. It'd be on the chat. Let me take a look here. C252 sounded exactly like a piano. Yeah, the last message I have here on even on Twitch chat is, well, besides test, is that sounded exactly like a piano. So whatever it was, it just wasn't sent on Google. Wait, 5 to 10 years, the old... Oh, I see what you're saying. So you mean... No, I still don't know if I fully understand what you're saying. I guess you're saying that if China takes over, the old World Wide Web will come back eventually. Which is probably true. I mean, I'm actually quite interested to see, like, the population of the US plus Canada, plus basically the population of the whole Western civilization, as we would call it. You know, you know, US, most of Europe, in fact, all of Europe, even adding Russia into the mix, with China and I mean, I would say adding all of these countries together, all of these guys together, with exception of China and India. I'm interested to see, like, the population of everyone else versus China and India. That's what I want to see. Just to see, like, if there's, like, what the sum is, like, how far off we are. You know, it's just an interesting thing. I mean, like, the whole PewDiePie versus T-Series thing. It's a very interesting thing. Like, when I'm looking at my statistics on YouTube, and my statistics on the Algorithm Archive site, my statistics everywhere, like, it shows that the US is my most popular country by about, like, 40%. But then there's India at 30%. It's always right there. And it just goes to show you that it's a huge demographic that most people are just missing out on. Big companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter will die. Let's see, that too, but mainly deaths of big corporations. Yeah, okay, that's true too. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I've got a feeling that the corporations won't last too long in certain societies, but it also depends on how they go. Because honestly, the thing is, as much as you may hate the US for being very capitalistic, China is also very capitalistic. I mean, they say that they're socialist, and that's true, but their economic policies are very much aligned with the US's, so it's not too different there. Let's go and CD into projects. Algorithm Archive over here, Algorithm Archive here, clear here, ls, and let's see what we got here. So I'm gonna do git branch, and hopefully we're on the right. No, we're not. Git checkout FFT updates, and let's see what we got here. So let's go ahead and do CD projects, Algorithm Archive. Let's do a quick git book serve. Okay, so today I wanted to take a look at I wanted to look at what did I want to look at? Basically the FFT portion, so the butterfly diagram part of our FFT chapter. And what I want to do is try to figure out, like, what each individual component of the butterfly diagram is doing, because that's something that I don't have a good understanding of. I understand that it's kind of this rotation into imaginary space, but that's about as far as I know. I don't think the Chinese government is company influenced that much. Oh no, it's super company influenced. I mean, like, I think it is anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but, like, it seems quite, it seems, again, I've only been to China once, but, like, it was an incredibly bizarre mix of things, you know? I'm pretty sure it is very company influenced. I think government does control their companies. Yeah, okay, maybe it's the other way around, but that still means that the government has a very high influence in the companies, like, work or whatever. Basically, like, okay, so this is true. I read, I've been reading stuff or read up on stuff that had to do with China like 20 years ago, which is clearly not valid anymore. Hey, Pyro ESP. So I don't really know what the modern Chinese state is like, honestly. I mean, again, I was there not too long ago, but I don't know so much about it. I have to ask more about it. I mean, right now, I mean, because I'm talking about mainly Chinese history, or I know more about Chinese history than modern China, I would have to say I don't really understand how the Chinese policies, or what China is like now. I do know that my boss pretty much always says that if I want to continue in academia, but I don't want to take like the regular academic route, I could always choose the what does he call it? It's like a bit of an odd track into China, because China's great and all that kind of stuff. From what I know, China and government companies work hand in hand. Yeah, that's definitely true. Hand in hand, I would say that in the U.S. companies control the government, and China and the government controls companies. They're both bad ideas. So in my opinion, what happens, so what I do know happens is that, like, for example, no one really pays for stuff in China, because like it's all based on facial recognition and stuff like that. Like you have like a phone that basically holds, I don't know. Like, for example, they had this refrigerator in the university that my professor went into, and basically you have to pay for a certain amount of stuff. Like there's like a water bottle or something in there that you want to pay for, right? Like there's some sort of food or something like that. He opens up the refrigerator and he can just take the food. Like he doesn't have to pay for anything, because every time you open up the refrigerator, it takes a picture of your face, and so they know who took the food. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things that's like, well, okay, I understand that you don't have to pay for this, and I understand that in some sense this is a good solution, but I don't want people seeing my face every time I open up the refrigerator in order to like take a piece of food, So it's kind of one of those weird things. How do you manage sound volume, screen brightness in i3? So I'm not using i3, I'm using OpenBox. But for sound and volume, a lot of times I just use Pavu control. Which is fine. And honestly, the desktop environment or Windows Manager doesn't matter for this type of stuff. So I use Pavu control for that. I also use aMixer sometimes. I have a weird blend of ALSA and Pulse Audio in this on this computer. Screen brightness, I just have a keybind that just changes my key brightness. Although I don't really remember what it is, because I don't really change key brightness or screen brightness on this computer. I'm gonna guess it is Windows F5 and F6. I think that's what I use. Yeah, something like that. And for that, I just have a basic command. Let me do OB key, which, let's see, super F5 and F6. This is one of them. It's just backlight in increase 20 or decrease 20. That's all we have. I don't like Pulse Audio either, but it's what everyone uses, so it's what we have. Let's see, what else was the question? As far as the sound for this particular stream is concerned, I use Jack. In particular, I use CAF. What is it called? CAF Jack Host. So basically Jack allows us to do high quality video editing and video processing for Linux and stuff like that. So I basically use a Jack server or something like that. I don't really know how to call it, but I use a Jack server which will basically modulate all the sound and everything I need for stream, and then I send that to OBS. So I've got like a few additional things going on there. So like here's my thing. So I've got a gate, which basically means that you can't hear anything that is too low. Let me just move this over to this desktop. So basically anything that is sufficiently low that it's like the sound of background noise, like for example, my air conditioner turning on or something like that. I have a gate so that you can't hear that, but you can still hear my voice. And then I've got a de-esser on there, which doesn't really help too much. It just means that like if I breathe into the microphone too much, or if I say something with like too strong of an S sound, it kind of modulates that down a bit, so it's a little less obvious. And that's basically all I have for sound and audio. I don't have anything else. I've got a pretty basic setup. Use XRandR for brightness. Yeah, so I mean XRandR, I use ARandR all the time, but I didn't know you could actually change brightness here. Resolution, orientation, view, system, key bindings. Yeah, I thought ARandR was just a GUI for XRandR. What do we have here? Hey, Trash Rock Lol, how are you, man? Lol, I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you, but I know you're here just like last month or something like that. I'm not sure. I definitely saw you in 2018. Let's see, Circumoto, no in China companies control government just the local. Your sound is fine. Yeah, I was mentioning, so someone asked a question about like how I do sound and all that kind of stuff in i3, and I definitely use OBS, not i3, but overall all the programs should work just the same. I mean, like again, your Windows Manager desktop environment doesn't really matter that much. XRandR output name, brightness. Yep, fair enough. Okay, I didn't know it could do that, but nice. Okay, so any other questions? Let's see. Putting cool. By the way, I'll take a look. Human terrain. Visualizing world population in 3D. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, the past 30 years, the scale population is hard to grasp. How do you visualize 10 million people? Let's see. Yep, that's cool. Yep, this is about what I expected. Literally no one in Alabama, where I'm from. Now I'm looking for, here it is. Yep, that's about what I expected too. Now, what I'm interested in is actually seeing the difference between, for example, Tokyo and, wow, that is a stupidly high peak. Let me see here. So I went to Hangzhou. That's where I went before, which is right next to Shanghai. Like they're pretty close to each other. But it's surprising how much smaller this peak is versus this peak. Now this peak is a bit smaller. So I mean, like it's a little bit thinner. So that means that this one spike is actually a bit higher. So I would say that probably the Tokyo population is pretty close to the. I'm just gonna have to Google this. It's hard to see. So Tokyo population. Tokyo, yeah, population. It's a nice visualization. China has 10 super high ones. Yeah, that's true. Tokyo population, what do we have here? Tokyo, Wikipedia. It says it exceeds 13.8 million. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay, so if it's over 13.8 million. Okay, nice. Then let's go to Shanghai. I've got a feeling Shanghai is pretty high. So let's see, population, 24 million. The other one was, I think it was just, what is it, 13 million. So it looks like Shanghai is almost double, and that's just one of the many areas of high population in China. Like I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other incredibly high population areas. Let me see, what do we have here? Yeah, so I don't think Shanghai, I mean, Shanghai is incredibly popular, I'm sure. But let's see, I'm also looking for this Taipei. But what I'm looking for is, there's Hong Kong down here. So I know a couple people from Hong Kong. Yeah, so I mean, it just looks like China just blows Japan out of the water, which is what you expected from before. I mean, like, it's totally fine. Now, the thing that gets me is Indonesia. I know it's super popular, but it just doesn't look that popular. It looks very sparsely populated. Huh, interesting. Let me check Okinawa real quick. You can hardly even see Okinawa on this plot. Like, here it is right here. This is where we are. Like, where we are, Oist is here. This is where Oist is. And there's just no one here. It's just like, here's Naha, and then there's no one there. That's it. Indonesia is a big country. Yeah, I agree with you. Lost all memory, but works again. Wait, what are we talking about? Oh, your laptop is back. So lost all your storage. That's fair. Let's see. My tweets pay out. Wait, I like it very much. Saving tweets pays out. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so I got my laptop back. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Is it d3.js? I don't know. I don't know anything about d3.js. Someone mentioned it before. I think yesterday on stream, but I just didn't know much about what d3.js was even. So I don't know how to do anything with it. Yeah, it looks like in the US, the only really big city is actually over here, which I'm sure is New York. Yeah, that's definitely New York. Outside of that, like the next biggest city looks like up here, but that's Vancouver. It's not even a US city. Like we have nothing that compares to any of the cities in China. Like if I go to Alabama, like the biggest city in Alabama is Birmingham, which is right here. It's just nothing. Then if we go to United Kingdom, I mean, granted, it's still small. Yeah, okay. Oh, this must be... I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Venezuela? Yeah, this guy right here is huge. It's just like a huge city, just right there. But is that Venezuela? Yeah, it is. There isn't anything important in it. But I didn't have to reinstall Chrome. But I did have to reinstall Chrome. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so... this is the population map to end the conversation we were having just a bit ago. I should toggle the change window. It shows the change population in the last 2 decades. Show change, decline versus growth. Okay. Huh. Whoa. Holy cow. What is going on there? There's a huge decline. They all just moved to the left. These guys are just like, hey, let's all move over here. Or something else happened that I'm a bit worried about. Let's see, Atlanta. Yeah, so I don't know. They don't seem to have, yeah, so low populated areas don't seem to be very well. Well, let's just zoom in real quick to Alabama, see if they have some more information. Let it load up a bit. Oh, there's no green here. They just all move away. Zoom in on LA. LA, where is LA? Here it is. Yeah, I guess that's what you would expect, right? Like, yep, that's about what you'd expect. Definitely. Just more people moving in, but no one moving out. It's technically not my laptop, so I don't care. Interesting. I mean, it's just, when you think about all of these, like, here's New York. I'm always surprised at how many people are still moving into New York. Like, as someone who doesn't like cities, I just always find it bizarre when I see, you know, like, people moving into cities. It's just like, why? It's just like, it's inherently worse than anything you could get out in the country, you know? Let's see, France. So, Paris, over here. It's hard to believe that Caracas has a bigger population than NYC. Other people use it too. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, I don't know if it has a higher population. Like, it's hard to tell based on this particular graph. I don't think it has a higher population. I think it has a much lower population. It's just that it's more highly concentrated. You know what I mean? So because it's more highly concentrated, it looks bigger on this graph, but I don't think it actually is. I think New York, it has a bigger spread. So I'm not sure. I think we have to look at this a bit. Like, it's kind of hard to tell, like, what is bigger and what is smaller, you know? So, I mean, it's really hard to get a good grasp of what things are with this plot. It's a very good plot. It's a very interesting plot. But it's very hard to get, like, really good information from it. Caracas is a quarter the size of New York. Let's see. This is modeling growth. Yeah, that's fair. Let's see. Hard to believe. Well, no, but even the population present day. If we go to the present day population and we go to this, I mean, if you look at it, it still looks like this guy is bigger than this guy over here, you know? Just looking at the two of them. So that's it. I think it just has to do with the area that you have. Check Rotterdam. It broke 500,000, I believe. I don't know where Rotterdam is. I'm so sorry. Paris, that's me. It almost looks like Europe is empty. Yeah, I mean, it's almost as empty as the US, right? Like, there's nothing going on in the US. Let's take a look at Europe. But in Europe, there's actually a good bit going on. Like, Europe is more populated on average, I would say, than the US, right? I mean, we have Madrid, Barcelona, Paris, London. I mean, you've got a lot of relatively big cities. And the US is just all so sparsely populated. It's in the Netherlands. Okay. Let's see. My geography is really bad. For some reason, I thought this was the Netherlands, but that's clearly not the Netherlands. Okay. Amsterdam. Does it give you any more? No, it doesn't really seem to give you too much more information here. We'll let it load up and see what we have. Oh, no, it does. That's actually quite a good bit of information. So what did you want to, you wanted to look into, oh, Eindhoven. I know Eindhoven. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Sweden is a big nothing. Western Central Netherlands. So I believe, wait, what are we actually looking for again? We're looking for Amsterdam. No, that's not Netherlands. That's somewhere else. You can smoke weed there? No, it's right here. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. I don't know anything about European geography. So, Hague is large. I don't know where. Oh, The Hague. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was right there. I don't even know why I said that. Clearly, I could have just looked up. What am I looking for, though? Someone said they wanted to look at Rotterdam. Rotterdam. You said Western, Central. Where is it? Oh, is that how Der Haag? At the Hague? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce these. I'm so sorry. Again, my knowledge of Europe is, I know lots of people who live in Europe, but I don't know the geography so well. This is, unfortunately, next to Amsterdam. Okay. Well, interesting. So it doesn't seem to show it. Let's try show Rotterdam. I'm looking. Why are we doing this? This is a programming stream, and we're literally just like looking at the world map. You said West Central, so it's probably over here somewhere. Wait, West. Never, West is that way. I mean, someone programmed that thing. Yeah, you said West, but I'm looking and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it at all. Maybe we showed the change? I'm sorry. I don't know. Amsterdam, Rotterdam is what we're looking for. It's right there. You see it? I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at this. It's on the screen. Bottom left. It's right under your nose. Well, my nose is down here, so that means I don't know. I can't find it. Mouse was above it, so it has to be over here then? I can't find it. I'm sorry. I cannot find it at all. You're mousing over it. I can't. I'm so sorry. I don't know. There it is, Rotterdam, right there. Found it. All right, cool. Got it. So that's Rotterdam. Now let's go show change. It actually looks like, I know you said, compared to 1990. Huh. I know you said it increased, but it says here that it decreased. I'm sorry it took me so long, guys. I'm so sorry. All right, let me get some water real quick. Oh, man, I just... one day I will learn about what Europe is and like how geography works. But that's not today. That is tomorrow. I should just change the stream to geography now, and we should just do geography. Like that's what we should do from now on, instead of any of this like weird geometry stuff. Okay. Interesting. Okay. That is that's really cool. I mean, it's a cool plot. I like this plot. It's nice. I'm going to zoom in slightly to Alabama over here. And I just want to see what it does. See if I can find... I'm sorry. This is something that I'm interested in for my own sake. So, this is Auburn. That's the city I used to live in. Leeds, of course. Montgomery. Now, where is... I'm looking for Prattville, which I think is right here. No, that's Troy. Tuskegee. Auburn, Montgomery. So here it is. Prattville is above Montgomery. Wow, I don't even know the geography of my own, like where I live. How you say hug in Dutch? Oh, I didn't hear that at all. All right, let me try that again. Den Haag. Den Haag. I think I'm too hard on the ch, but I'm hoping I'm close. In English, most people say it Hege. Really? That sounds weird. Hege. Den Haag. I can't do the ch at the end, but I think I'm not so far off. No, like G. Hey G. Interesting. That's not even how I would naturally pronounce it. Like again, okay, fine. Look, I don't know. I have weird pronunciations of everything, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know how to pronounce anything. Yeah, not far. Okay, well I'm getting there. You know, like my pronunciations, admittedly, I'm pretty bad. Like the nice thing about Japanese is that like all of the characters are pronounced the same way. So worst comes to worst, say hey and then ga. Hey ga. Oh, interesting. That is definitely not how I would pronounce it. But it is what it is. You know, everyone has different pronunciations. But yeah, so like I was saying, one nice thing about Japanese is that they all the words are pronounced the same way. Does that make sense? Like it's all, you know, if you see I don't know, Ona-san, like, you know, Ona, it's all pronounced the same way. Like, you don't have to worry about the pronunciation. Now, what is this one big peak down here? I'm sorry, I shouldn't care, but what is that giant peak down there? Like, you look around, and that is the biggest peak in Alabama. Yeah, that is the biggest peak in Alabama, and they're all in just this one guy's backyard. This one guy is just holding like, oh my word. Like that says something about Alabama, that we have just this one guy down here that happens to have like all of the people located just right there in his backyard. Like it's just like, man, I'm sure that's just like some guy and all his cousins that are just having a heyday or something like that. Then we have Prattville, Millbrook. That's about where I lived. I also lived in Montgomery at some point. Alabama. Now what I'm looking for in particular is Lake Martin, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to find that guy. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So I used to also go to Auburn. That's where I used to live, in the case that you're interested. You're from the UK, aren't you? Yeah, I think... Wait, when speaking to Dutch in English, they say that. It was depressing. From 1990 to 2015, not a single place in Vermont has increased in population a significant amount. Okay, I'm interested in Alabama. I've got a feeling everyone moved away from Alabama. Like, that's my guess. Everyone just moved away. I'm not going to say there's a single positive... The only positive growth we really see in Alabama is here, which I think is Huntsville. Huntsville, right? That's exactly what you'd expect. Because Huntsville is, strangely enough, I think the places with the highest number of PhDs in the US, like per area. And here's Prattville. Prattville's slightly growing. I mean, compared to everywhere else in Alabama, yeah, it's growing pretty well, but it's just slightly growing. I mean, look, here's another guy's backyard that's just, for some reason, lots of people moved there. I'm not sure exactly why. I'm surprised again that you have positive growth in New York. It's just weird to me because again, as someone who absolutely detests cities, I just find it like really bizarre that anyone would decide to move to a city, like out of their own free will. Let's see, but that's okay. Let's Vermont is great. Let me take a look at Vermont. See, I think it's. Oh man, I'm gonna be really sad. My population present day. Come on, dog. I thought. Oh my word, do I have the wrong state? I might have the wrong state. Let me Google Vermont just to make sure I'm in the right area. I just don't like cities. I know that. I'm looking for the state, what the state looks like. Yeah, no, I was at the right state. Yeah, okay. I was worried. I knew it was one that looked like a V. This is it. No, this is right. That's Vermont. I'm like 90% sure. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's Vermont right there. So I thought I was in the wrong state because it didn't say Vermont on the map, but I think I'm okay. To me, I just don't like cities. I just don't like the idea of living in a city. I don't know why. It's just never been my thing. Like if I have a choice to live either in just this Burlington. They've got a good coat factory there. That's all I know. There's nobody in Vermont. Love the state. Yeah, it's fair. It is what it is. But yeah, as far as cities are concerned, like I do understand. I mean, it's convenient. For example, I wouldn't mind living in Tokyo. I like Tokyo because Japanese people are oftentimes very quiet. And you have the chance just to, walk around the city. No one really cares about you or what you're doing. It's fine. You don't have to worry about crime. You don't have to worry about anything. I like Tokyo. I like Kyoto. I like Osaka. I like all the Japanese cities. They're super nice. But I don't very much like cities in the US. Maybe it's just because cities in Alabama are all garbage, but the cities that I'm used to, I just don't like very much. I would much rather live super, super far away from a city, like just out in nowhere. Like I really like living just like in the middle of a forest, or like right off a lake or something like that. That's what it is. I just really like just being out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that's just something I like. And it might be a distinctly American thing. I think a lot of Americans prefer living alone as opposed to living in cities. I mean, this is why suburbs are so popular in the US, I think. I mean, people just like having their own plot of land and just living far away from other people. I mean, the other thing too is like, if you're in an apartment, I just don't like living in apartments. And as far as if you live in a city, you're probably going to be living in an apartment where like, you have people above you, below you, to the left, to the right. And, if you say something, I don't know, it's one of those things that I feel like, I don't like living in apartments. And I guess maybe if I could live in the US, in a city in the US where I'm sure that it's like an apartment like this, where, the floor is sufficiently isolated from the people below you and the ceiling sufficiently isolated from the people above you, and you don't have to worry so much about hearing other people around you, then maybe I'm okay. Because like, again, I have some weird sleeping schedules. I do a lot of, again, live streaming here would be impossible, stuff like that. I hate suburbs. Man, why? Suburbs are great. Like you have your own house. You have your own yard. You can get a dog. It's super nice. I've always wanted to have my own house and like live in the suburbs. I don't know why. Like it's just something I've always wanted to do. I mean, not even live in the suburbs. I've just wanted my own house. I've just always wanted to have my own area that I can call home and go back to. I don't have to deal with anyone at all. I can just go home and I can just live alone. Like, this is what I've always wanted. I just don't want to have to see anyone. Like, on a day-to-day basis, I just want to be as far away from other people as possible. I don't know if that's true for other people, but for me, like, that's definitely something I want. Vermont is beautiful, beautifully green, tranquil, cool state. That's what I gathered from visiting it. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize you'd been to Vermont before, because you said you were from Paris, I thought, before. And Paris is sufficiently far away from Vermont that I wouldn't suspect you'd go there. Okay, cool. So this is our population map. I spent like 20 minutes on that. Let's actually get some programming done today, shall we? So let's see. No, sorry, I don't watch old films. Oh, the problem is that I live in deep woods in southern Vermont. I don't have any friends, and the nearest town is full of drug addicts. Yeah, there is that too. Like, if I go back to Alabama, like, I know I wouldn't be able to find friends. Oh, sorry for the yawn. I just couldn't, because there wouldn't be friends around where I live. You know what I mean? It's actually quite surprising. I think Okinawa is what is the population of Okinawa? I'm sorry. I'm now. This is the last thing I'm going to Google, and then we'll see. So population is 1 million in Okinawa. That's relatively high, actually, when you think about it. So population of Alabama. It's got to be higher. I mean, obviously, it has to be higher, right? Population. 4 million. But considering how small Okinawa is and how large Alabama is, this difference is actually substantial, right? Because, like, Alabama is 4 times the size of Okinawa, but it's like 20 times the landmass. You know what I mean? I love my bot. Ramboleos. Stream starts in 11 minutes. How is it to live in Japan? I visited it for the first time in October. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I've said this before on stream. I genuinely love Okinawa, and I really like Japanese people. Now, I will argue that probably Japanese work culture is maybe a little bit more than I'm willing to. Like, it's a little heavy. You know, like, it might be a bit heavy. I don't know how to put this, but it might be a little bit hard to deal with. But I do honestly believe that Okinawa, as far as places that I've lived, I would love to live in Okinawa for like the rest of my life. Like, this place is amazing. We'll get something done. I promise. I promise we'll get something done today. I promise. But I don't know if I'd like to work anywhere but OIST. So the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, where I currently work, has a work culture that's very similar to that of maybe Europe. And so it's kind of nice because people know and they take work-life balance very seriously. In anywhere else in Japan, it's significantly different. Really haven't visited Okinawa. Yeah, Okinawa is just this beautiful island off the coast of Japan. It's just, man, I love this place so much. It's the nice thing about Okinawa is that it's not urban. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are a lot of people in a very small area, and that's fine. But it's not urban like Tokyo. It's not like Osaka. It's not like Kyoto. It's you know, you can go to Nago, which is up in the north, and you won't find anybody. You know, you can go on these like kind of hikes where you go into like these waterfall areas and stuff like that. It's just a nice place to be. And I genuinely like everything about it. Like, again, I open up my window and there's the ocean right there just staring back at me. I mean, not literally staring, figuratively staring, because I don't think the ocean has eyes. But I mean, the thing is, it's nice. I genuinely like this place, and I would love, like, if I could get a faculty position anywhere, like if I could be a professor anywhere, I would love to be a professor at OIST. It's just genuinely my favorite place I've ever been. Just hands down. However, again, that gets into like future career prospects and stuff like that. It's hard. I mean, it's not a job I could count on. Meanwhile, like, you know, there's a lot of other jobs I could count on, you know? So like, I probably, once I leave Okinawa, I probably will not be back to live here anymore, which is sad in a way, but I know that it's fine. I know wherever I go, I'll be fine. It's just, man, I really like this little island. Is just such a beautiful place. That would be a rebellion. Let's see. LC Pablo. What about Emacs? What are we talking about? I missed LC Pablo. But what if he opens up Vim instead? Anyway, that's it. As far as Okinawa is concerned, again, I love this place so much, but I'm going to have to leave it eventually. That's just the state of being an academic. You got to leave eventually. Okay, so that's it for the just talking part of today, or just chatting part of today's episode. Let's actually get some work done. So I'm going to open up this, and let's see what we got. So I'm going to go to the Fourier transform section. Now, the thing is, I want to do, in this Fourier transform section, I want to also talk a bit about discrete Fourier transforms, right? In particular, I want to discuss what this matrix means, and how it works and stuff like that. So let me read this thing that I wrote before, and then we'll kind of go from there. What do we have here? In special session 2, or probably more, about why I hate MATLAB by James Schloss. Oh man, you wouldn't put it past me either. Like, I would do that too. I just genuinely hate MATLAB. What do we have here? The entire con is about geography, but no one knows it. We're talking about the Algorithm Archive Con. Yeah, so as far as the Algorithm Archive Con, which I think Gathros brought up a while ago, I did genuinely think, and this is something we could potentially do, if we could get like one of the hackathons, like we could call it a hackathon sponsored by OIST, there is precedent that we could potentially invite people over here for an actual conference. You know what I mean? If there is sufficient academic merit to the conference. So like, for example, if it's an algorithm con and it's actually an academic conference where people present like scientific, or not scientific, but they present like academic work. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that we could do at OIST, and we could live stream it. It'd be great. But yeah, so essentially we could invite people from the community. Granted, it has to go through a rigorous review process and all this kind of stuff, but we could technically invite people from the community. And this is something that could potentially happen. But again, it would only happen if I were a professor at OIST. Like, if I wasn't a professor at OIST, your bot just don't count rambles. Yeah, but if it's not like, if I'm not a professor at OIST, it's very hard to do. And that's part of the whole, thing, right? Like, it's part of the whole debate I have every single day. Like, it's like, do I work on becoming a college professor, or do I work on working in the Algorithm Archive full time? And it's one of those things that, you know, I could technically become a professor, and then I could work on the Algorithm Archive as a professor, but that lacks a lot of community involvement that I really feel the Algorithm Archive needs and deserves. So it's one of those things, you know, hey, I mean, I think probably in the end, I don't know. It's a very difficult choice that I have to make in the next year, and we'll see. How many people will come to Algorithm Archive Con? Probably 2, myself included. That's pretty high. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, like 2 people. Wow, that's incredible. 3 people. JSP would also come. It'd just be me and my boss. I was thinking, yeah, there's a lot of things I've been thinking about recently, just as far as like things to do and what we could do. We should pick you up. I mean, it depends. I would accept I probably wouldn't be able to afford to come. Yeah, depending on where we go, you know, and that's fair. I was wondering, or I was thinking about maybe some way we could do a remote conference, you know, some way that we could, but it's kind of weird. Like, the whole point of conference is meeting up together. I don't know. Like, then what's the point? If it's in Europe, I'd find a way. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we have people who are from Europe, but the thing is, like, obviously my largest demographics are from the US and India. And honestly, I don't know. I don't want to go. I just don't like traveling, you know? Didn't the US hold all the creators of curl or something at an airport? Creators of curl. Oh, maybe. For some reason when you said curl, I naturally thought of curling, but you mean obviously the utility curl. Oh man, that's silly. That is absolutely silly. That's wonderful in a lot of ways. Oh man, the US. Gotta love the US. Okay. So we have a couple things we need to talk about here. So the first thing we need to talk about is, okay, we could talk about 2 things. We could talk about the discrete Fourier transform, or we could talk about the fast Fourier transform. And they're both things that we need to discuss. I think what I need to do in the end is I need to find some way to basically describe what these butterfly diagrams are. You know what I mean? Another is, I don't want to get into a mass shooting. I mean, look, to be fair, like, mass shootings just don't happen on average, you know? Like, it's not like, I mean, I guess maybe they do happen more in the US than other countries, that's true. And I have to admit, like, as far as places that I would rather be, I kind of prefer Japan to the US just because I feel like Japan is way safer than the US. On the other hand, Japan is right next to China, and then there's North Korea right there, and it's just, it's worrisome. The school next to mine is extremely close to getting shot up earlier this year. Yeah, we should hold on a boat in the Atlantic Ocean. That would probably be the shortest distance for everyone. I mean, that's the thing, right? I agree with you that I don't really feel particularly safe in the US. I feel much safer in Japan. On average, they do have more shootings. Yeah, I agree. Completely agreed. Before FFT, I think it's best to explain DFT first. Very easy to implement in code too. Oh, yeah. So we have the definition there. The question is what we want to do here in today's episode. And I think I'll look at both of them and see what we can do. So the thing is that DFT is pretty obvious as to what is happening. In fact, for me, like, it wasn't really until I saw the DFT that I actually understood what the FFT was doing. Because once I saw the DFT, I was like, oh, okay, this is literally just some transformation matrix in imaginary space. You know what I mean? And then we go from there. This stream made me realize how much I hate where I live. Man, like, this stream made me realize how much I love where I live right now, like Okinawa, and I really don't want to go back to Alabama. Like, man, I wish, like, I wish I could become a professor at OIST. Like, it would be such a wonderful place to be, but I don't have the credentials. I'm not good enough for that, Plus, I don't know what OIST will be like in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years, it's a completely different place, But I just genuinely love this place, and everything about this place. And I just wish I could be here like forever, basically, go to Europe. The thing is, I don't want to have to deal with, the thing is, one thing I've learned from coming here is I don't want to move to another country where I don't speak the natural language of that country. So like, I could go to the UK, but the UK is not Europe anymore. And I don't know, if I'm going to go anywhere, I want to go back to somewhere that I know. And even though I don't particularly like the US, it's not that I hate the US. It's just that compared to Japan, the US is not my favorite country, Sim the one and only go to Europe. I love the culture where I live, but I hate the economics. That's fair. You could go to Canada, I guess. Yeah, I could go to Canada. I mean, no one hates Canada. I mean, like, you're not going to see anyone bombing Canada anytime soon. It's Canada, right? Canada's cold. I like cold. I've learned to understand it by deriving the FFT formula from DFT. Yep, this is fair. Okay. This image was created by James Schloss. I should probably erase that, shouldn't I? Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and move over here. So let's CD into, oh, come on, dog. CD into contents, and let's go into, why can't I type? Contents Fourier transform, vi Fourier transform.md, pop down here, and we're just going to delete this line because we don't need that line. Australia, New Zealand. I've thought about New Zealand. I genuinely like New Zealand. New Zealand is, like, as far as the people I've met from New Zealand, it sounds like a wonderful place. It's like, imagine, it's like Australia, but instead of everything evolving to hurt you, everything evolved to be kind of cuddly. You know what I mean? Like, it's just mildly annoying at the worst, And that's the thing, like, New Zealand is just, it's interesting. It's just, I don't know, like, all the people I've met from New Zealand are just super nice and friendly, and it seems like a nice place. I wouldn't mind moving there, honestly. That's actually a good idea. I wouldn't mind it. It's just, the thing about New Zealand is it's subtly farther away. Like, I'm already in Japan. If I go to New Zealand, it's even further away from my family in the US, and don't get me wrong, like, I'm not like this huge family man that just wants to stay next to my family at all times. It's just, I want to be at least close enough that if something happens, it's not going to take it's not going to take, 40 hours for me to get home. And then on top of taking 40 hours, it takes $1,000 to $2,000 US, like, then it's prohibitively expensive and costly to go home. And I know we have Skype and I know we have all this kind of stuff nowadays, but at least for the next few years, when I'm sure big things will be happening in my family, I kind of want to just be in the US with them, and then I can move wherever I want. But Australia has drop bears. What are drop bears? Australia is just a bunch of spiders in the shape of a country. But Australia has koalas. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Everything I hear about New Zealand is just funny. It's just wonderful. You can go to Massachusetts. I don't know, Massachusetts? I don't know. Anyway, point is, I could basically go anywhere I want. I just haven't decided where I want to go. So let me go ahead and read this section about the DFT. So in principle, a discrete Fourier transform is simply a Fourier transform with summation instead of integrals. Yeah, so I need to rewrite this whole section, understandably. But again, the Fourier transform is basically this thing that allows us to transform between the time domain and the frequency domain, or real space and momentum space, depending on what you're talking about, right? What about Antarctica? Look, I've been wanting to go to Antarctica since I was little. Antarctica seems amazing. In Australia, all the animals are horribly poisonous except koalas. And koalas just eat eucalyptus leaves, and then which they can't even digest properly. I don't know, it is what it is, you know? Man, this chat is so incredibly different than what we're actually talking about on stream. Like, we're supposed to be talking about Fourier transforms. I spent the whole time just looking at this human terrain calculator. Oh my gosh. It is what it is. I genuinely really want to go to Antarctica. Right? Same here. Antarctica seems amazing. North Korea seems nice. I mean, it is the true Korea. Kidding. North Korea is not somewhere I want to go. Not because I don't think it would be interesting to go. I think it'd be interesting to see the culture, but I don't want to go there because I'm genuinely afraid as an American I will not, I'm just afraid because I know they hate my country so much, you know? In Australia, all the animals are horribly poisonous. I feel New Zealand is kind of like Japan in that they are descendants of warriors and they kept so much culture from the past. It's amazing. Oh, interesting. See, this is stuff I didn't know about. Who cares about Fourier transform? Lots of people care about the Fourier transform. It's one of the most useful techniques known to man. I mean, besides maybe like eating food or drinking water. I guess those are also techniques that you use. But Fourier transform is like third on that list. You know, the moment you're born, okay, maybe there's other things like maybe moving your eyes and stuff. But okay, so eating food, drinking water, those are the two most important skills that you can have. But using a Fourier transform, that's number 3. That's right up there, I promise. It's super useful. You won't even know, but you use it all the time. What is here? Clips here? What? Oh, I'm worried about what this clip is. Right, same here. Antarctica seems amazing. North Korea seems nice. That was Kermit the Frog. Stop being afraid. People don't hate nice dudes. I mean, I don't know. Fourier transform, I hardly knew it. What? That one doesn't make any sense. It's like, Fourier transform, I hardly knew it. What? Look at New Zealand Warriors rugby haka powerful. Oh yeah. So I mean that's the thing. Like New Zealand is known for its rugby. And look, when I came to OIST, there was this. There were a lot of people who just they started talking to me about football because like they know Alabama is known for football, and that's great. But I know nothing about football. And then they started talking to me about rugby, and I'm like, I know nothing about rugby. You know, so it was one of those discussions that I just had no idea, you know, how to do anything. It was hard. Like I just didn't know any of this conversation. My cousins plays one of the main New Zealand high school rugby teams. Their games look insane. Yeah, one of my friends. It was water polo. He was super into. Steamy Squares, thank you so much for following, man. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's just take a look at this DFT matrix. So basically, the idea with the DFT is we're producing some sort of transformation matrix to take our signal and transform it into basically frequency space, right? So we're going to take our signal and transform it. Now the question is, how exactly do we visualize this matrix? We can't just do some sort of density plot or something like that. But what I'm interested in doing is, because this is a two-dimensional matrix that we're performing a transformation on kind of a set of vectors, I'm interested in seeing what happens if we just take a couple 3D vectors or a couple points in space and we perform this transformation on those points in space. And we kind of connect those points. I think we'll see exactly what the DFT is at that point. Yeah. But now we have to run into this question of how exactly do we visualize imaginary space? Because clearly this vector, this matrix here, has imaginary components to it. I mean, here is the matrix, right? It's one along the first column row, but after that we have clearly elements in imaginary space. And then the question is, what exactly are we transforming here? So I guess let's just kind of look at this stuff. Let's see what we got here. I don't know anything about rugby either, but I stumbled upon a video on YouTube, and the haka they do before the match, or to show respect to someone, is amazing. Yeah, that's fair. You should travel the world doing algorithm archive for a year. I don't know. I don't think that's something I could do. I don't think that's a feasible career goal for me. Imagine being in Germany, so many soccer fans, but I hate soccer. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest. Let me draw you guys a map. Let me just see what I can do here. So let's do Zernal. This is full-on Rambaleos, by the way. We're not even trying to do Fourier transform stuff today. It's just talking. Like, that's all we're doing. I should be in just chatting. Like, I'm not even trying. Okay, I just want to draw something for you. So this, I'm just going to draw something that looks like the physics building I used to be a part of. Okay, So we had two buildings. We had math and we had physics, right? Then we had this giant lawn right here. And then over here, we had the football stadium. Right? A giant stadium that was literally, it was just so big. It was massive compared to the size of any of the buildings in the university. The football stadium was just so much bigger than any other structure in the university. It was just massive, you know? It was so big that when they built it, it actually, you know, there's this plain over here. I'll color it in green, like some sort of field over here. Wow, this is a great diagram. But basically, they built this so big. It was so incredibly massive that it actually caused water runoff. And the water runoff actually, you know, went underground such that there's now a giant sinkhole basically right under this building, right? Because of this football stadium, there's a giant sinkhole right under the physics and math building. So the physics and math building are literally sinking into the ground a couple inches a year. You know, for those in Europe, that's a couple centimeters a year. And it's literally just sinking into the ground. And no one does anything about it because no one cares about physics or math. They all care about football. And it's just one of those situations where you're like, come on, like literally these buildings were on the same plane. Like we had physics here and math here. Now, if you look at the two buildings, the physics building is here and the math building is here. You can actually see that one building is sinking into the ground further than this building throughout the years. And more than that, the thing that really just kind of boggles my mind here, this bottom floor of the math building is where we did all of the physics. This is where we did all the physics labs and stuff like that. It was literally water. One year, water literally flooded this area just because, again, like they poorly designed this area of the building. So basically, the football stadium just massively destroyed the area around it. And because of that, there was a whole bunch of water runoff that just went right through this bottom floor of the math building. And it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, it's just, come on, you're a university. Why do you care so much about football? I don't know. Like, as far as people caring about, like, you know, soccer in Europe, I understand that. People care so much about football where I'm from. It just, physicists are really doing groundbreaking work there. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Baseball in Japan. Baseball is very popular in Japan. I don't know how popular it is. I feel like football is more popular than baseball in Japan. But I will say that they are definitely popular. STEM is greater than sports, in my opinion. In their opinion, no. I mean, you don't have, like, there's no such thing as, like, I don't know, a competitive hackathon where, like, you have all of these people, how do you put this? You don't have hundreds of thousands of people coming to watch a charity hackathon or something like that. You don't have hundreds of thousands of people coming to watch programming. You have hundreds of thousands of people watching football. In fact, let me just Google this real quick. Auburn football. Now let me see if I can get you actually a picture of what this looked like. So there's the football stadium, right? Let me see if I can just do maybe maps. And let me see what we got here. Actually, I don't know what this map is. Yeah, so here's the Jordan Harris Stadium. I think, yeah, this is the stadium itself. There's the student center, which means the building I'm talking about would have to have been, there's that building. Now, where am I? There's Shelby. So it has to be down here. Heisman Drive. Here it is. So this is the physics and math building down here. So that's the physics and math building. And there's the football stadium, right? Honestly, it's not so far off the scale. There's the green space right there. So that's the physics and math building with all the runoff on it. Now let me check to see. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm just rambling so much today. I'm so sorry about that. So let me just look up. This is like the dumbest stream ever. So I'm going to do Auburn football stadium population. It's like it's okay, how many people can fit in the Auburn football stadium? That's what I'm asking. Football game day, stadium rules. Let me see. Because I know it's always sold out. Like, it just always. I don't care. I just want to know a number. No, I can't find a number. Capacity, that's what I'm looking for. Capacity is much better than population. Because population is like, with helpless chemistry building, there's a chance to explode the stadium. Yeah, chemistry building, though, is actually, like, the thing is, the chemistry building was well equipped. Like, the chemistry building is a newer building. But the physics and math building, capacity is only 87,000. So we'll say about 100,000 people come by for all the game days, because it's always just completely booked out. But it's still a pretty big stadium. I mean, 100,000 people in a stadium, or 90,000 people will say in a stadium. That's pretty big. Stadium has a full Wikipedia page. Yeah, I know, right? What do we say here? Look on the bright side. Games, you can do more nuclear physics experiments now since the physics building's underground. 1939. It's been consistently built up. All right, what do we have here? Baseball is purely USA stuff. Let's see. Because everyone knows the university are about football. Yeah, that's true. STEM's great in sports. Why don't physicists destroy the football stadium? Burn everything except the physics and math buildings, and use remains to build a wall around the buildings. This isn't how physics works, unfortunately. Obviously, not dumb, we're all here listening. I don't know, man. I'm just like rambling. That's all I'm doing. Just ramble. Ramboleos back in full force. Let's see. With the help of chemistry building, there is a chance to explode the stadium. Also, why the heck Americans call it football when most of the time ball is in the hands? That is true. I'm not going to deny the fact that football is an oddly named sport, considering that, European football, being the U.S. soccer, is clearly played with the feet. Meanwhile, U.S. football, you only kick it like once and again. Like, you don't really kick it that much. I joined it. Everybody's suggesting to explode something already. Yeah, hey Soding, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Let's see. Imagine if this is the first stream someone watched. Yeah, they think that all we do is just talk about like population and like, oh man. I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe this is an interesting stream for other reasons, but like that is not at all. We're supposed to be doing Fourier transform stuff. What you should do is destroy physics and math buildings and build a megastructure for STEM. Look, that's one thing I do actually appreciate about like for example, Indian culture. And Indian culture, admittedly, might be a little bit too strong towards the education and stuff like that. But I will totally and completely admit that people I know from India do actually care about science, technology, education, engineering, and math. Like, they actually care about it, and it's so cool. Once it gets serious, the discussion is too big and the stream ends. Actually, teach math and physics in the stadium, for instance. Oh, I could imagine, like, as a halftime show, we're literally just teaching physics and math. That would be the worst halftime show ever, It's just, because all the other time you've got, like, hundreds of people playing in the band and, like, they're doing, like, like, marching and stuff like that. And then one day, we just have some guy with a blackboard, and they're like, so this is a Fourier transform. If we put a summation sign, it becomes a discrete Fourier transform. Whoa, it's amazing! And then everyone in the stadium's like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then you have like that one math guy in the audience who's like, woo, yeah! He's like, yeah, do the discrete Fourier transform! Oh, man. Or everyone is cheering. Someone raised their hands like, can you do the fast Fourier transform? The best way to be productive is having someone else you should be doing. My favorite Canadian. Wait, the best way to be productive is having something else you should be doing. My favorite Canadian. I see what you're saying. I understand it now. I'm sorry. What is happening? I'm just imagining a halftime show where some guy just comes in, like he's just literally teaching the Fourier transform as a halftime show. Mathematicians will not shout in the crowd. The math guy in there, he isn't saying anything. That's correct. That's totally correct. Sim, the one and only, thank you so much for following. One day we'll actually do programming on this stream. That would be amazing. You would make 80,000 people smart at the same time. Yeah, but the U.S. badly needs Fourier transform lessons in stadiums. I mean, like we said earlier, it is the third most essential skill. James Wood, he could pass as a mathematician. Not really, though. I mean, I pass as as nothing. I don't pass as anything. I don't even pass as an academic. Now, I don't know what I like less, churches or stadiums. I actually like churches. Don't get me wrong. I understand that a lot of people don't like I think a lot of people don't like the indoctrination that Christian churches provide, but the architecture of churches is always unique and interesting. And also, I think that churches actually do provide a unique benefit to people that stadiums don't. Stadiums is just a place for people to come and shout. Churches at least provide some sort of support for people who are feeling down, and they can be useful. Churches are prettier, but stadiums hold more people. See, this is not the discussion I thought we were having. I don't know what I like. Let's see. Depends on the size of the church and the stadium. Yeah, okay. To be fair, there are some mega churches in the U.S. Okay, if you guys are not familiar with these are just ridiculous mega churches. Megachurches are just bizarre. I don't understand them. So, database of megachurches in the U.S. Actually, let me just do megachurch Wikipedia. So, a megachurch is defined by the Hartford Institute as any Protestant Christian church having 2,000 or more people in average weekend attendance. 2,000 or more people in weekend attendance. When you think about that, that's insane. Also, when you think about that, that's actually not that insane, because when you 2,000 or more people on average is a megachurch. Wait a minute, that's super weird, because when you think about it, like, there are streamers that have 2,000 or more people in their stream at all times, right? So if there are streamers with 2,000 or more people in their stream at all times, that means they're technically more influential in some ways than these mega churches. And yet they're having trouble paying for themselves, but the mega churches clearly have enough money. I've decided we are changing this stream. This stream is now going to be exclusively a Christian stream. We are going to talk exclusively about the Bible. So if you guys don't mind, let's open up the New King James Version to Job 28:28. The New King James Version, New King James New King James Version. That's what I'm saying. And we'll just read this out. And to man he said, "Behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding." That's an interesting quote. We'll talk about this. Christian channel PewDiePie meme. I'm sorry. That's just one of the few quotes I know off the top of my head. Okay, Protestant Church, 2,000 or more people. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Like, I'm not bashing Christianity or religion or anything like that. It's not indoctrinated into us to donate 10% of our income to streamers. That's true. That's true. I guess, like, now we're going to talk. I don't want to get so much into this discussion because there's two different polarized sides of this religion argument that I don't think really, they just don't see eye to eye. But man, this Lakewood Church. This is a Lakewood Church meeting in a former... Holy cow. Holy cow. Look at all these people. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane. I am somehow very impressed by this. Like, there's a tech desk. If you look at this, there's literally a tech desk right there. That is insane. Wow. Boom churches and weird Bible fable, 16,000 people. All right, yeah, you're right. Let me get work done. Let's actually get something done. Okay, I can stay until 8 o'clock today, so technically I have an hour and 30 minutes left. Let's actually get something done. If you showed me that, I thought, wait, I missed that. What? If you showed me that, I thought it was a concert. Yeah, that's fair. 23, then he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, young lads came out from the city and mocked him and said to him, "Go up, you bald head. Go up, you bald..." What? 24. What? I don't remember this quote. Where is this from? Is this actually... This has to be an actual biblical quote, but I don't remember the bald head thing. Bethel. Is this Old Testament? When he looked up behind him and saw them, he cursed them in the name of the Lord. And then 2 female bears came out of the woods. Oh, I do remember this. The 2 bears, but I didn't know they were female. Came out of the woods, tore out 42 lads and then of their number. No, I don't remember this at all. Nope. I thought I remembered it. I remembered bears, but now I don't. 2 Kings. 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 and 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Yeah, so this has to be, Old Testament. My youth section at the church has 500 people regularly attend. It's fair, right? Like, it's fair. But it's still it's an interesting perspective when you think about it. Like, very interesting. Uptime, we've been up for 19 minutes, which means we can officially now start talking about Fourier transforms, right? I think this is good. As a point, I'd rather talk about FFTs. I like how the average age of people in the church is like 65, 75, so they die out soon. That's good. I'm not against religion. Like, I know a lot of people are very biased against religion, and some people are obviously very biased for religion. I'm neither. As someone who grew up and had a wonderful church group growing up, I can honestly say that I'm a very big fan of the individuals that I met there. And I can honestly say that it did shape me and it pushed me to do more research. It actually pushed me into research in a way that only really a Bible study group can. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I can guarantee you that if I wasn't a part of that church group, I would be a fundamentally different person and I wouldn't be here today. And I'm okay with where I am today. So, it's okay. It is what it is, This has been the longest 19 minutes of my entire life. Felt like 1 hour and 19 minutes. Off topic, Kappa. By the way, are you going to do audio filter algorithm too? I want to. I do want to. But I don't know so much about these. I'd have to learn more about them. And this brings us back to the master overview. Bam! Going back to tab number 2, the first tab we opened on today's stream. We're now back to talking about algorithms. Thank you so much, Pyro ESP. Let's go. Okay. We have a list of all these 52 algorithms to do. There's just so much left to do. And we're so far behind on everything. And that's fair. The algorithm archive wouldn't exist without that church group. Honestly, I think you're correct. Would the algorithm archive be a good place for, say, the Fibonacci sequence? I don't think so. I think the Fibonacci sequence is, it's more of like a mathematical construct than it is an algorithmic method. Does that make sense? So I would say that if we're going to put, I don't think the Fibonacci sequence really makes sense to put into the algorithm archive. But if you can make a compelling argument for why it should be, yeah, feel free to do so. Have you visited Japanese temples? I have. It's amazing. You do the whole thing. It's great. It's great. It's great. I love it. It's wonderful. I don't know. I just like everything, I guess. How about MATLAB? Oh no. No. We just got off a long discussion for no reason. I don't want to move on to another discussion for no reason. I have a great idea. What are we talking about here? Quick derail, James. It's fine. It's fine. Let me get some water. All right. By the way, guys, I've decided that this year I'm going to try a different schedule. Like, don't get me wrong, you guys will see the same thing. It will still be 5 to 7 every day, but I want to try to do a stream from 5 to 8 every day. I want to try to do an extra hour, and the only way to do that is to drop my workout from 7 to 8 in the morning. So that means I'm going to have to start working out from 3 to 4 in the morning, take a shower at 4, eat something, and then stream, because that gives me time to do a shower and eat something before stream. And that makes sure that I'm actually awake for stream. My friend says that MATLAB is great for programming RC cars to run. What do you think? Good for him, man. I mean, he's using so suboptimal tools. It's like, I mean, if some guy says, oh man, I've been using this axe to eat cereal. Oh, that's nice, man. Like, good. It's impressive. You know? Did I hear useless discussion? That's the only discussion we've had today. Is completely useless. It's all just useless discussion. My signal is bad. So as soon as he started reading about the Fibonacci, it cut out. Can someone summarize the chat? Oh, I said it's probably not the best place for it because the Fibonacci sequence is it's more of a mathematical construct than it is an algorithmic method. Does that make sense? So I don't know, but if you can put a compelling argument forward for why the Fibonacci sequence should be in the algorithm archive, do so. Create an issue, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Seemingly, someone told me that commenting code slows it down 10 times, and I think we should take them all out from the algorithm archive. Ho ho! Thank you so much for bringing up that issue that we just created yesterday, I believe, where I wrote code comments, and I said we need to have more code comments. Ah, man. But yeah, so we do need to actually put more comments into the code. Because honestly, at this point, we are significantly behind on the code comments. SKG Codes, thank you so much for following, man. Okay, but yeah, you're right. We do need to add more code comments. We have to add a whole bunch of stuff in there. What day is today? Today's Friday. Usually if we were going to do a Ramble Laos day, it'd be on Mondays. You know, what were they called? Meandering Mondays or something like that. Would RGB speed up the build time? What? Would RGB speed up the build time of the algorithm archive? What do you mean RGB? Not code comments. Code rants and code rambles? Oh, yeah, well, they do. They do increase the time it takes to code everything, because now I'm just talking about stuff that doesn't even matter. That must be why it takes a minute to build the algorithm archive on my computer. Oh yeah, it is all the comments. Now that you mention it, the comments definitely slow down the building of the algorithm archive. I think what we should actually do is just take out all of the useless languages that like really no one actually cares about. Let me see, what do we actually have here? Algorithm archive. So it's the useless languages that people don't care about. Probably like assembly C, C++, Java, Julia, C#. Pretty much all the other languages. I think the only language we should have in the algorithm archive from now on is Scratch. I think now that Scratch 3.0 is out, I think it's by far the best ideal language to use for the algorithm archive, and it's what we should be using in general. I mean, it's fast, it's efficient. I mean, if you've seen the Fourier transform in Scratch, it's incredible. Here, let me just show it to you real quick. So we got a tree traversal here. Let's just go down to FFT down here, and let's see, we have the Scratch version up already, so we can just click here. Oh no, oh wait, where is it? Here it is. There it is, right here. So here's the Scratch editor for the FFT method. I'll give it a second to load the project, and yeah, there we are. So we have the FFT, the real imaginary part. So I think we just run the flag here, and we just draw something, I think. Let me see what happens. And we perform the FFT. Oh, there we go. Nice. So we have the absolute value, the real, imaginary. It's nice. So this is what we'll be using from now on. I think clearly it's ideal to use Scratch for all the future algorithm archive work. Chief CLL, thank you so much for rating with a party of 8. I hope you had a wonderful stream. I give you a shout out. I don't have a shout out command, but hey, I don't know what you do either. So just feel free to talk about your stream here in chat, and we'll talk about it too. By the way, I'm going to be totally and completely honest. This is super impressive. Like, I know I'm kind of making fun of it because it's Scratch, but this is super impressive. Being able to do an FFT in Scratch is just, it's mind-boggling to me when you think about it. I honestly love it. How's Julia speeds versus C++? Oh man, that's such a good question. Thank you so much for asking. Okay, so let's go here. Let's do Julia benchmarks. We're literally just hitting all of the notes in order to get me to ramble about things. So Julia micro benchmarks. All right, so what do we have here? C, Julia, okay. How does it compare? Did you say to C++? We'll compare it to C because I have it for C. So let's view the image here. Let's zoom in a bit. We're never going to get to algorithms, not at this point. I'm a front-end developer and was just streaming on progressive web apps. Oh, dude, super cool. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to check them out. I'll try to give them a follow, actually. Let's go ahead and do that now. Twitch.tv/Simuleo should be here. And I'll just go ahead and give you a follow right now, man. So let's see, what do we have? I'm going to go ahead and pause my own stream because I don't like that guy. And I'm going to look for you. Where are you, my friend? There you are. And let's just go to twitch.tv, put your name down, and remove my name. I'm sorry. I'll give you a follow just so I have you there, and I'll take a look at your stream afterwards. However, I will... Oh, I just screwed that one up. I'll turn off the notifications just because email notifications are weird. Okay, cool. Done. So, C versus Julia. So the idea behind Julia is that it's always at the slowest 2 times the speed of C. That is to say that Julia will never be too much slower than C, which is one of its big, I guess, selling points. So here's the spread for Julia, right? So here's C at 10 to the 0. So C is what they're all benchmarking to. I mean, here's Julia. Again, at slowest, it's 2 times the speed of C. And in some cases, it's actually faster than C. I can't see the graph. Oh, let me, how do I, okay, let's, now you can see the graph. I can't see the chat. Let me zoom in here, make it a little bit smaller. There, it should be okay. I'm sorry, that was probably a dumb way to do it, but you can probably still see the graph. Point is, let me go ahead and give you guys this. Luajit is impressive. It is, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but it's impressive. Someone gave my PS Vita FFT a start on GitHub. I think that might have been me. I'm not really sure. Anyway, super cool. Julia. So Julia is, again, at slowest 2 times the speed of C. So if you look at its spread, it's rather impressive, right? Because it is a language that is written kind of higher level. It's Python-esque in terms of how it's written, right? So you wouldn't expect it to be that fast, but it's relatively fast. And then you have Rust here. Rust is obviously, in general, better than Julia, but it's also a little bit harder to write. Here's Go. Go is, in general, better than Julia, but you've got a few things where it's a little bit slower. Here's Fortran. Somehow Julia is better than Fortran in many ways, which is actually very impressive, because Fortran is one of the fastest languages and stuff like that for CPU computation. Java is overall slower than Julia, JavaScript, MATLAB. Here's MATLAB, and look at this. This is in log scale. MATLAB at some points is literally 200 times slower than C or Julia. You know, that's incredible. 200 times slower. And its spread is just phenomenal. Mathematica, Python, R, Octave. Octave is horrible. Like, just don't use Octave if you can avoid it. And so that's kind of how it is. Inzel still has Twitch notifications up. It didn't read them for 3 months. There's about 6K now. Yeah, see, that was my issue. That's why I turned them off. Can someone do matrix statistics wrong and someone done matrix statistics wrong and Go? Yeah, it could be. And okay, I'm gonna be totally completely honest here. These statistics are very biased, right? Because they're written and they're on like the Julia website. You know what I mean? So there is some bias in this, and that's totally fair. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at these statistics. They're a bit biased, and that's okay. Octave isn't really optimized. That's true too. Hey Combane, what's up? I know you said hi to JSPP, but I also said hi. Let's see. C# is faster than MATLAB. Is it actually? I'm not sure. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, I don't think they have C# here, but I maybe it is. Probably. Oh yeah, C# is faster than MATLAB. I've no doubt it is faster than MATLAB. C# is If it's roughly like Java, it should be faster than MATLAB. Again, MATLAB just has a huge spread. I mean, that's why people use MATLAB, and that's why people don't use MATLAB. If you write MATLAB the right way, it is fast. I mean, you have basically the speed of C for iteration, PySum, and matrix multiply, right? So if you write everything in matrix form, MATLAB is actually quite good. But the moment you start just deviating from the MATLAB ecosystem, you start writing it slightly differently, it's not good. It gets really slow, and that's another big fault of MATLAB. And now Octave over here, for some reason, is still okay with matrix multiply, but everything else is just not great. So again, if you've got a choice of languages to use, I am still a very big fan of Julia. I use it quite frequently for most of my stuff, but that doesn't mean that you have to use it for your stuff. Just know that as far as benchmarks are concerned, those are probably the closest benchmarks that we're working on. Can we do FFT now? Yes, we can. I think it would be cool to be able to set your preferred programming language and have every code change to that, but it might be overkill. I'm confused. We do have that. That's what we do. So if I click Julia, then all the other files, all the other pages I go to are automatically set to Julia. If I pick, for example, C#, which we should have this, yeah, C#, and then now it's all in C#, so here's your C# code. And then if I go to any other language or any other, oh, it should naturally stay on, oh, that's because we don't have C# for those guys. So now my natural language is C#, and so now bubble source in C#, bogus source in C#, tree traversals in C#, stuff like that. So, except the implementation isn't there. Yeah, then it defaults back to Julia. That's true. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's super cool. Thank you so much for noticing, right? There's been a lot of work put into this book so far, and we're still putting obviously more work into it. Clearly, I spent like an hour today just rambling. We're not getting anywhere today, but I promise we're going to get somewhere eventually. So let's go into Fourier transform should be up here. I think what I want to do right now is just take a look at this discrete Fourier transform and figure out exactly how it works. So again, if you're new here, you don't know what a Fourier transform is, the idea here is rather straightforward, okay? And I think that the easiest description will come in the form of this graph right here. So basically, if we take a single sine wave, right? And the sine wave has some frequency, and that frequency is going to be, let's say, x, right? Well, the Fourier transform is a way basically to turn this frequency into another space, transform it into another space where we don't see the sine wave itself, but instead we see one defined peak that is dependent on that frequency, right? So this has a frequency of 2 pi. So we see a single element at 1 right here, right? That means it's 1 multiple of 2 pi. Oh, thanks so much for the follow, Death Packs. Really appreciate it. And so basically, as this frequency changes, this peak in frequency space also changes. So as the frequency gets higher, the peak increases. And as the frequency goes lower, you can see it change, right? Now, if we have 3 defined peaks in frequency space, like so we have 3 random waves all put together, what's going on now? Are we on topic? Almost. So if we have 3 kind of unique sinusoidal oscillations all mixed together, so it's very difficult to discern what the frequency actually is. The nice thing about the Fourier transform is it allows us to take these frequencies and turn them into 3 defined peaks in frequency space. And this to me is the most intuitive way to think about the Fourier transform. Because now as these 3 frequencies are increasing, we actually see the 3 frequencies in frequency space also increasing. So now I have no idea what's going on up here, but I know it's a combination of these 3 frequencies at roughly 120, 60, and looks like 25. Maybe 121, 61, and 26, something like that, close enough. And then obviously as they decrease, we see the frequencies decrease and you see the same thing happening, right? So basically what we're saying here is by modulating the frequency in our time domain, we can see unique peaks in the frequency domain. And so that's kind of what's happening with the Fourier transform. It allows us to get a good, understanding of what it is we're looking at in the time domain, even if it is a super messy mix of all these weird waves and stuff like that. I haven't checked the algorithm archive yet, but I'll do it this weekend. Yeah, so we're working on the Fourier transform stuff right now. Hey, Honoff, what's up? How are you, man? Thanks for coming in. So this is basically what the Fourier transform does. Now, admittedly, it is a bit weird mathematically. It looks funny. It's hard to understand mathematically, right? Because if you look at the Fourier transform mathematically, it looks like this, right? We say the signal in frequency space is equal to some integral from negative to positive infinity of some frequency of some real space image times e to the negative 2 pi I x z dx, right? It's such a weird thing. I'm good. How's everyone else? I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I hope you were also fantastic. You just said you're good, so I don't know why I said that. But yeah, so it's this weird kind of mathematical jargony mess that's really hard to understand. But you have to remember that this e to the negative 2 pi I x z is actually just a sine and cosine hidden underneath, right? So this e to the 2 pi I theta is just cosine of 2 pi theta plus I sine of 2 pi theta. So if you see this kind of e to the 2 pi I x, actually what we're doing here is we're imagining that we have some imaginary space sine function and some real space cosine function. So essentially we're saying, basically we're going to be multiplying our function by some sort of wave, right? So what we're doing is we're multiplying this function by some sort of weird wave that's somewhere in between real and frequency space. And again, frequency space is imaginary space, and it's kind of weird to understand, but that's what we're saying. We have some sort of weird real space image, some sort of weird wave that we're multiplying by some other weird wave to get another weird set of peaks. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So again, we just substitute in the sines and cosines, and basically we see that we have this function here. So we say the forward Fourier transform is going to be the integral from negative to positive infinity of this weird cosine sine thing. And down here we say the other one is going to be the backwards Fourier transform is just going to be the negative of that. And so basically we can move back and forth between real and frequency space with this Fourier transform. And that's incredibly cool because for signal processing and all this other stuff where you have some stupidly complicated signal, you definitely want to be able to transform back between the two spaces, because this space is way easier to understand than this space in certain cases. And this is also useful for a lot of areas of compression and things like that. Now, I realized, because now we're not rambling about random stuff, that the chat got kind of silent. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, just feel free to ask, because this isn't trivial stuff. This is very complicated mathematical stuff. I don't know any other way to put it. It's complex. It's literally complex. It's complicated. It's hard to understand. I get all that. So what I need to do is find a better way to represent this Fourier transform. I need to rewrite this entire chapter because right now it's difficult to understand. And that starts, I guess, with the discrete Fourier transform. So the thing is, the discrete Fourier transform is a way of taking these waves in real space, taking that integral that we saw before and turning it into a summation. And the thing is, when we think about summations, it's clear that summations are not over continuous space, right? When you think of a summation, you're always thinking of like individual elements that we're adding together, right? And so we've basically turned our continuous space into this discrete space, and this discrete space is very interesting for a number of reasons. The first of which is now we can actually look at this matrix transformation. This weird mix of sines and cosines we can look at and we can say, hey, I now understand what's happening. I found the animation coding train made quite good to understand the Fourier transform. Yeah, so this depends on the person, right? Like I find I need to add a section about the Fourier series and stuff like that in here too. Hey, Radu, thanks for coming in. I definitely need to add in a bit more information about like Fourier series and stuff like that. But this comes after the discrete Fourier transform, because the discrete Fourier transform is a depiction of basically individual elements in the time domain and individual elements in the frequency domain. And what we're doing here is basically each of these is an individual unit in frequency space, right? So we're basically adding these frequencies together. Oh, no, the Fourier series is directly related to the discrete Fourier transform. That's what I was trying to say. Like once you understand the discrete Fourier transform and you understand that each of these are just defined peaks in the Fourier series, right? Once you see that, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what each of these peaks means. So now I can kind of modulate them to get whatever picture I have. Thought I'd drop it here. Yeah, I'll take a look. Orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. I know nothing about this. In telecommunications, orthogonal, oh yeah, this has to do with signal processing and stuff, is a method of encoding digital data on multiple carrier frequencies. OFDM was developed into a popular scheme for wideband digital communication used in applications such as digital television and audio broadcasting, DSL internet access, yada yada. Interesting, actually, this is quite interesting. Discrete multi-tone transmission. Yeah, there has to be FFTs in here somewhere. What do we have here? Oh, Inzen NL, thank you so much for donating the $5. What's this on topic stuff? I really appreciate the donation, man. Like I can't appreciate it enough. Like it's I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. As far as the on topic stuff, yeah, we need to get some stuff done. So I'm sorry we have to keep on topic. But if you want to have an off topic discussion, we'll do off topic discussions again in a bit. Is there a section on implementing? There is a section on implementation using FFT. Oh, interesting. Did you major in computer science? No, I didn't major in computer science. I majored in physics with a emphasis on computational physics. So nowadays my research is in computational physics. But dude, Inzen, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you guys are new here and you haven't been on the Discord already, please just go ahead and go to the Discord, hang out, chat. We have just a whole bunch of things that we do there. It's kind of nice. Time, I think it's uptime. And uptime is going to say, yes, it's going to say 41 minutes, but technically we've been live for an hour and 41 minutes. So it's an hour off. I don't know why, it's just an hour off. We should just have Simbot say +1 at the end of each of those guys. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you said there's something with the FFT in here, right? Oh, oops, 1 second. Move over here, FFT. And let's see, and signal per FFT. Implementation using the FFT algorithm. Yep, this is about what you'd expect. The time to compute the inverse FFT or the FFT transform has to take less than the time for each symbol, which, for example, the DVB-T FFT 8K means the computation has to be 896 microseconds or less. Okay, so this is all stuff I know nothing about. This is just way over my head right now. We'll get there eventually, but right now it's not, I don't have a good understanding it. This is the most janky fix I'll do. Well, that's cool. I want to learn about quantum computing. Yeah, so Fourier transforms are everywhere in quantum computing. Well, not everywhere, but like you have quantum Fourier transforms. It's a very useful thing to know about. And you will probably come across Fourier FFTs somewhere in there, but probably not as often as I just said. Actually, now that I think about it, you know, when you think about quantum computing, like there is a quantum Fourier transform, but it's actually a different thing. So maybe you won't come across FFTs too often, unless you're doing like signal processing, which you probably need to measure the quantum output. Yeah, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there isn't actually that much stuff about Fourier transforms there. He just started talking about DFT. Yep, let's go, DFT. I guess I missed the whole intro into Fourier. Not really, we're getting into it right now. Okay, so basically, if you did miss the intro, again, the Fourier transform is a way to take a complicated mess of frequencies in the time domain and put it out to 3 unique peaks or individual peaks in the frequency domain, so we can better understand the plot. We can better understand what's happening in real space. Perfection. Simbot is the best. Wait, why? I'm confused. What's so perfect about this? I'm really confused. I'm sorry, I am implementing OFDM and sending data over AC wiring. Sorry, this is going off topic. I just heard FFT and was like, oh, I know this. Yeah, it's so cool, right? Uptime, 1 hour plus. That is wonderful. That's best. That is the best thing. Like the best thing about Simbot's uptime command is that it has a 1 hour plus now. That's great. But it also has such a huge amount of precision here. Like 0.6477839. That's crazy. Like the amount of precision on Simbot is much better than any other uptime command I've ever seen. So like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know other channels have an uptime command, but Simbot is the best. No other is this precise. I mean, like, it knows down to the, what is that, microsecond, what we're doing. So simplistically, it's like transforming analog signal to digital or not. It's not quite like transforming analog to digital. Analog to digital would be like the difference between the continuous Fourier transform and the discrete Fourier transform. It's more like we're transforming, if you have a sine wave, it looks like this. And I want to know the frequency of the sine wave. We're transforming from a space where we see this wave to a space where we see a frequency of 1 or something like that. So here, let me just play this animation one more time. Basically, as the frequency increases in space, you see this one point in frequency space kind of increasing. And so this point corresponds to the frequency we see in the time domain. And obviously, as the frequency decreases, we see this peak also decrease, right? So the idea is we see some sort of weird wave, and then we know exactly what the frequency is, because when we go to the frequency domain, that wave is at 1, and 1 corresponds to, you know, a frequency of 1. Does that make sense? Simbot also has the messiest code base there is. And so, for example, if we have 3 waves, now we see 3 peaks in frequency domain. And that's kind of how it works, right? So we're basically transforming from a space where we see just some weird, messy signal to something where we see exactly 1 or 2 or 3 peaks, you know, and we know what these signals are. And that's kind of what we're doing here. There's spectrum analyzers used in labs for all sorts of tests and measurements. One application could be performance range of an audio amplifier, but I'm sure you guys know this. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, aha. So it seems like you get it, Radu. Thank you so much for that. I'm hoping this is kind of clear. This animation is a little bit hard to parse initially, so I need to do a little bit more description of it in the text. But I think overall it's a good idea, like it's in the right direction of what we want. So obviously you can see as these frequencies change, we see a change in the peak. So even though it's harder to understand this image, it's easy to understand this image. It's just a quick transformation between the two. Okay, let's talk about the discrete Fourier transform and what we need to actually do here. Fourier discovered that all the time-varying signals are sums of a finite or infinite sum of sines. The Fourier transform is an operation that gives us the frequencies of all the sine waves. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Thank you, Lol. That's a much better description than whatever I gave. Okay, so the DFT is super easy to do, admittedly, and I'm going to look at the C code here. Admittedly, it might be a little bit weird to look at in Julia, because I did some tricks here in Julia, but essentially all we're doing is we are creating a transformation matrix. And if you're familiar with this channel and you know kind of what we do, basically, if you remember back to like eigenvectors and stuff like this, the idea is that we just kind of take some element and we perform some sort of transformation on that element, right? And so basically, if we take a point at this location and we perform a transformation on it via transformation matrix, it moves to another point in space, right? And so the idea would be that we're basically creating a transformation matrix that takes some random wave or some random signal, which is just a whole bunch of points on this wave. And then basically what we do is we perform a transformation to move this into what is essentially imaginary space. If you have the list of frequencies, their height, you can, under some conditions, then resynthesize the original signal. Yep, that's exactly what we're looking for here. Do you think a video showing the sinus waves changing to a square wave with a spectrum below, like your video, would be interesting to show? That's something that I think we'll show after the discrete Fourier transform. So we kind of showed this weird thing where we see this wave that's changing in real space, and then when it goes into frequency space, it changes in the time domain. And when we go into frequency space, we see 3 unique peaks. But it's not really clear what it is we're looking at here in, I guess, an intuitive sense, right? And for me, that intuition didn't come until after I did the discrete Fourier transform. Because once I did the discrete Fourier transform, I kind of began to realize that every single point in frequency space is itself its own wave in the time domain. So if we add a whole bunch of waves together in a very particular way to create a square wave, this is going to basically create a weird function in frequency space, right? And we have to kind of think about all of these waves and what each of these waves mean. And so I think you're right. I think it would be a very good thing to put in there. But I think it should come after the discrete Fourier transform, once we have an understanding of what each of these, like what the transformation matrix is for the discrete Fourier transform itself. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if this is a bit hard to understand. Let me go ahead and get some more water and then we'll keep working. If you have a list of frequencies with their height, you can, in certain conditions, resynthesize the original signal, and that's via the inverse Fourier transform in most cases. I tried to make a voice changer with my PS Vita FFT thing, but it didn't sound right. Can you make an example of the inverse transformation? Yeah, so that's one thing I think we do need to add to this chapter. So the inverse transformation is basically the same as the forward transformation. It's just you have basically a minus sign different. So here is the discrete the discrete transformation, the inverse discrete transformation. So this is just a sum, and here it's e to the 2 pi I k n instead of e to the negative 2 pi I k n. So basically we're just transforming back. And because of that, I didn't initially put an example for the inverse Fourier transform, because honestly, the inverse Fourier transform is just the reverse of the forward Fourier transform. I need a drawing. Oh. The inverse Fourier transform takes our complex signal that we've just Fourier transformed forward and goes back in the same direction, right? If you have an FFT library, you can use it to perform an IFFT. That's true. Let's just show that real quick then. So what I'm going to do is move this over here, since we're no longer ranting about weird buildings in Auburn University. Transform one of those peaks. Yeah, no, the thing is, it's not really. I'll be honest, I played some tricks here. So let's go ahead and let's open up Julia real quick. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a very quick sine wave. So we're going to say A is going to be equal to, what should we say it's equal to? We're going to say it's equal to sine of 2 times pi times I divided by, I'm going to say 100, we'll say. And then we're going to do for I equals 1 to 100. Something like this. And now we're just going to do plot, using plots. And let's just plot A. And just see what it looks like real quick. Just to make sure this is a sine wave that's just 1, 0 to 2 pi transformation. Or just 1, 0 to 2 pi wave. Probably speed, the frequency at which you sample the voice must be at least twice as high as the audio frequency in the voice. Is this some sort of, that's the Nyquist sampling theorem, right? Which we should probably talk about too. There's so many things we should talk about. The Fourier transform is just such a huge thing. It's impossible to really cover everything because it's so dramatically big. So here's our sine wave. That is a very small plot. I was expecting it to be larger. Let me just increase the size for you guys. So this is our sine wave. Let's make it a little bit. Yeah, okay, it looks pretty clean. That's a pretty good sine wave. So now I'm going to say B is going to be equal to the FFT of A. Using FFTW. B is equal to FFT of A. Okay, no, I can't just plot B. I'm not going to be able to do that. Oh, I am, but actually this is quite interesting. So here's the real plot versus the imaginary plot. This isn't quite what I was hoping for. Yeah, that's not quite what I was hoping for at all. So let's try this again. So we're going to do plot B. Can we just plot the real of B? I think we can just type real here, and we can plot the real part of B. And then let's plot the imaginary plot of B. Nice, okay. So with this plot, we have a real plot. Now, can I plot on top of this? That's the question. Let's see, how do I plot on top? How do I do that, actually? I have no idea. Let me try this again. But basically here, when we perform the transformation, we have a real part and an imaginary part. So if I plot the real part of B, it looks something like this. And let me just go ahead and increase this plot size a bit. Maybe something like that. You guys should be able to see that, right? So here's the real part of B. And you'll notice we did some funky things here, right? So when I showed you the previous plot, we basically showed you just this one individual peak. But in actuality, there's another peak over here. Oh, see, it's CT52. Thanks for coming in. Now, if we do the imaginary part, you'll notice something distinctly different. Now, instead of seeing just one peak at the top and one peak at the bottom, we now see a peak going the opposite direction right there. Granted, it's at the same location, but basically we have this real and imaginary component to our system that you wouldn't have naturally seen before, right? And this is why when we show these plots, usually what I do is I show abs2 dot b. I usually show the absolute value squared of the two of them together, just showing basically the rational value, or taking this imaginary number and putting it into real space so we can show the plot. Because when we plot it just in imaginary space or just in real space, it's kind of hard to really understand what's happening. But if we plot them together in kind of a rational way, we can see one defined peak. And so when we're performing the inverse Fourier transform back, we're not really performing it on this peak. Rather, we're performing it on the matrix that had the imaginary and real components. So it's a bit funky. Like when we think about it, it's a bit funky. But it kind of makes sense in a way that you can kind of understand in terms of frequency, in terms of processing and stuff like that. That's a job for MATLAB. What do we have here? I missed a lot of chat. Let's see. Pi raised b, the frequency at which you sampled the voice must be at least twice the frequency of the audio frequency of the voice. Let's see. The thing is that after recording myself saying a word and shifting the frequency up and playing it back, it sounds very robot-like. Yeah. Yeah, so that has to be a frequency sampling thing then, right? I remember when my teacher was explaining the Fourier transform, he said that if Fourier hadn't died so soon, he would have simplified it a lot, since the dude was obsessed with simplifying stuff. And everyone in class was like, dang, if only he had lived longer, this would be simpler. Yeah, C52, thanks for coming in. Loyola 1975, I didn't really find code or how to frequency shift the audio correctly to make the audio play fine, so I stopped messing around with it. That's a job from MATLAB. So actually, the reason we see two peaks here is because we have some sort of frequency shift that we... we have an FFT offset. So basically the idea is we're kind of transforming an object from maybe -1 to 1 when we should be transforming it from 0 to 1 or something like that. Basically we have to shift our measurement from where it is to where we want it to be, right? So if we're performing a transformation of some signal from 0 to 1, right, the Fourier transform probably wants it to be from -1 to 1. So we have to sometimes perform an FFT shift to make sure we put it back into the appropriate location that we want. And so there's some other tricks that we have to play here, but for the most part, it's okay. Now I have some requests, or I've had some requests to discuss why we need an FFT shift in the first place, and a few other things that we need to do. So I think for our Fourier transform chapter, the first thing we need to do is talk about what the DFT is and how that works. So I want to do a visualization of the DFT by basically taking the DFT matrix, taking the real component, the imaginary component, the absolute value squared, and kind of visualizing it real quick to see if we can get any intuition for what the DFT matrix is, just by like plotting some elements and stuff like that. And then if we can get a good understanding there, hopefully we can kind of give a better description of what the discrete Fourier transform is in our chapter, because right now it's a bit lacking, I think. I did play around making a filter on the frequency domain and then IFFT in the audio back. Pretty cool, but if I remember correctly, it was slow. Yeah, to be fair, most FFT implementations that you do on your own are gonna be slow. This is why you always want to use some other inbuilt library like FFTW, which is the fastest Fourier transform in the West. It's actually the fastest Fourier transform in the world, but for some reason it's called the fastest Fourier transform in the West. Okay, so let's see. I often play with audio in audio software, but I don't know how the algorithms are implemented. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this discrete Fourier transform, and we go from there. Now, I'll be honest, we can do more, like, okay, this is complicated, and I'm expecting questions from people, and I'm not getting too many questions, so I'm hoping that, you know, what I'm saying is clear, but it might not be. And so if you have any like really, really stupid questions, if you think that this is like, if the stream is like too intelligent for you or something like that, like you're not smart enough to understand this or something, just, this is the time to ask questions, because, you know, it's not like a YouTube video or something like that. This is a Twitch stream, you know, you just ask any dumb question you want. It doesn't matter. No question is really that dumb. So if you have any questions, will you go into details on, of FFT on general local abelian groups? So I don't know much about this. So I need to look more into that, but it'd be interesting. Could you send me some information on Discord about that? Actually, if there's interesting stuff to talk about, I definitely will talk about it. But I don't know if I want to go into so much about the like abelian groups and stuff like that right now, because that's honestly, like, I didn't even come across that until I started working on my PhD here at OIST, and even then I don't know so much about it. So I'd need to learn a lot about that before going any further. Stupid questions don't exist, just stupid answers. Yeah, that's probably true. Like the answer I just gave World Center, like, oh, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, which is pretty cool to do, because if you have to just define a sort of window array where you give each frequency a value from 0 to x1, you don't want to amplify. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I did look. Whoa. Okay, one second. I did look into how to shift audio, but I didn't find what I was looking for. Probably I didn't know the correct term to search for. What teacher would be? I don't remember doing this, not at maths, not at physics. But well, it was a long time ago, and the math teacher wasn't that good. I've learned from physics what the heck is on an integral visually. Yep, this is true. It was like I was discovering the matrix, but it was way too late to learn all the maths again, like with real world purpose. All the maths is used so much in graphics and visualizations, and in school we were learning by heart without the purpose of knowing these formula. That's totally true, right? I mean, there was this one distinct time I was sitting in like the modern physics class, which is a class you cover like general relativity, or not general, but special relativity and stuff like that. And I just remember specifically sitting down in that class, and I remember just gaining intuition for all of these ideas that I knew about, but I didn't understand what they were, you know? Like I learned them in math class, but I had no idea what they were intuitively. And I remember sitting down and distinctly remembering that. And I had this memory, I had it wasn't a memory, but I had this thought in my head at the time where I was like, man, this feels like I'm in like some sci-fi universe. Like, why am I learning about this? This is so cool. It's the coolest stuff in the world, because it's just now all of a sudden all that stuff that I thought was completely useless has a purpose. And that's something that I think it's very hard to give people, you know? I've learned about this I learned about this in my DSP classes, digital signal processing a while back. Yeah, so this is another thing. The Fourier transform is something that I learned randomly in a class, like an optics class or something like that. And it wasn't until much later when I actually went into the Fourier transform, the FFT algorithm itself, that I actually realized the utility in the Fourier transform and why it's so useful and why it's used in so many different areas. And that's why I want to do a much better job in the algorithm archive, because it is one of the most fundamentally useful algorithms and methods out there, and we really should do a better job, or I should do a better job of describing it. And this is a fault of my own. And granted, this was, when I wrote it initially, the algorithm archive was in a different state. It was much in a much younger time when I didn't really understand the purpose or how to write the algorithm archive chapters and stuff like that. I would say now I have a much better grasp of that. And I'm not saying I'm going to be perfect at writing it, but I'm saying now we're at a much better place for the algorithm archive development. And I'm pretty happy with where we're at now and where we can go in the future. And it's something we couldn't do a while ago, you know? Okay, let's say Fourier transform.md. Let's go ahead and take a look at the discrete Fourier transform stuff. So I'm going to Control D out of here. I'm going to cd back a directory. Then we're going to cd into projects, Simuleos, and we're going to do ls here. And cd into FFT. Now I should have in here FFT slow.jl. Let me see. Slow.jl. Does this have the DFT in it? I don't know. It has DFT. DFT slow. This is probably not what I'm looking for. So let's cd into projects, algorithm archive, contents. I'm going to look into Cooley Tukey, where I know we have the code. Then we're going to cd into code Julia. And I'm just going to basically output the discrete matrix, the DFT matrix, every time. So let's go ahead and, where do I want to be? Let's cd back. And we're going to cd into Cooley Tukey, ls, and we're going to cd into code, cd into Julia. I should be in the right directory now. And let's just go here and let's run Julia. What do we have here? PowerUSP, Stack Overflow questions, pitch shifting. Oh yeah, this is probably, yep, nice. Nice. Okay, so let's go over here. What do we want to do? We want to discuss what we're looking at here. So let's go into VI here, fft.jl. In here, I should have a DFT function right there. Now, what I want to do is output this DFT matrix a few times. You'll note, though, that this DFT matrix, this transformation matrix, is actually just the exponential of 2 pi nk, right? Where n and k are defined here. So no matter what we do, the transformation matrix is always going to be the same, just sized differently depending on the input that we're putting in, right? So let's go ahead and just define the DFT matrix in a very similar way. So we're going to say n is going to be equal to 100. Okay, so we're just going to say that's fine. N, the lowercase n, is going to be a range from 0 to n minus 1. And in fact, maybe we should make this a range from 1 to n. Now we'll do 0 to n minus 1. I think that's correct. Okay, and then we're going to say k is going to be the transpose of n. Oh. Okay, so now we have k and we have n, and let's go ahead and define a transform matrix. This is going to be equal to exp dot 2 negative 2 imaginary 2i times pi times n times k, and then we should divide that by n, right? So that should be our transformation. Adjoint has no field n. Oh, sorry about that. Should be divided by. Okay, so here's a transformation matrix. Now I'm going to create a couple of these different guys. So here's the transformation matrix itself. What I'm going to try to do is basically create an image with this transformation matrix. Again, it's a 2D transformation matrix, and we're going to try to just look at it, see what it looks like, understand it from an intuitive perspective. Now the question is, how exactly do I do that? I think I can do that using images. Package, add, one second, images. Might take a second to precompile. Package not defined, using pkg. Package add images. Okay, give it a second to build and then probably precompile and stuff like that. It'll take just a second. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Feel free to talk about what's going on and how it's going. Remember the Columbia.edu code isn't available anymore? Wait, what code are we talking about here? So using, oops, sorry about that, using images, precompiling images, give it just a second to rebuild, and then we'll also be using plots. And now what I'm going to be looking up while this is building is plotting 2D array Julia. I always forget how to do this. Plotting in Julia. Sorry about that. Plots, gadfly, plotly. This is not quite what I was looking for. Plot function array. I want to basically create an image from this 2D matrix is what I'm looking for. Introducing Julia. Plotting. Nope. Looking for one particular type of image here. And none of that is it. Those are all just 1D plots. What I'm looking for is 2D array. Let me look at some previous code that I have here. So I'm going to open up another terminal where I know I've done this before. And we're going to cd into projects, one second, projects, and then we're going to go into Simuleos and fractals. And we should have vi ifs.jl, which is another chapter we'll write in just a bit. Oh, I see. Thank you, PyroASB. I appreciate that for catching me up. I was thinking about a response below. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to, let's see, scroll down. I should have an image in here somewhere. So let's look for image, right image. Nice, right image here. So I say that we have some sort of A, which is an array, and then I basically just save the image out. Let's do that. Why not? So we're going to say A is going to be equal to an array in a very similar way to what we have here. Oop, that was all caps. That was not meant to be all caps. Array of RGB NOF8 0F8. Oh, actually, you know what? This doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm just being an idiot here. We can probably color the array in a bunch of different ways if we want to. Or we could, let's see. We could color it based on its real and imaginary components. I think that's what I want to do. So let's say A is going to be equal to array of, and we're just going to say NOF8, which is going to be like some sort of color value, basically. NOF8, and then we're going to say 2. And in here, we're going to say undefined. Again, the notation is a bit weird here, but that's okay. Size, and the size here is going to be P1. Ah, no, what we want here is just going to be N and N. So I think it's going to be N, N, and this should be the appropriate size. Extra token, that is because we have an extra token. But why? Array, oh, I forgot RGB. RGB. All right, so this will be our array, and then we'll just basically plot this guy. So we're gonna say for I equals, let's do 1 to N. And here we're gonna do for J equals, in fact, we don't even need to do that. So we're gonna say for I equal 1 to N, and here we're gonna say A of I is gonna be equal to RGB of N0F8. And we're just going to give this guy a particular set of colors. So we'll make it red, green, blue. So how about we make it, so it is transform matrix. I believe this is right. Transform matrix of I. And we should have a real part and an imaginary part. So we'll say real here. 1 second. Ah, come on. Real. There. And then down here at the end, we'll, come on, real, and then we'll just set the green always to 0, and then we'll do imaginary of transform matrix. Transform matrix of I, something like this. So we're gonna grab the real part, we're gonna grab the imaginary part. This should be okay. And then we just have to end that. And then let's see, imagine not defined. 1 second. Imaginary, is it image? I'm not sure what it is. B. Kendry, thank you so much for following. Really appreciate it. Okay, I'm gonna get this guy done. I promise we'll get something done here. What's the current topic? We're talking about FFTs now. So the idea is that we're going to be plotting, not FFTs, DFTs, discrete Fourier transforms. So what we want to do is plot the transformation matrix of the discrete Fourier transform itself and see if we can get some unique intuition as to what it is that we're doing. C252, welcome back, man. I'm glad you're here. I have to look into MATLAB because I don't know what interp1 does. Yeah, this is exactly my problem with MATLAB most of the time. Like, it just uses all of these functions that I have no idea what they mean. Admittedly, Julia does fall for this too, which is why I think I agree that C is a little bit easier to read than a lot of other people. I'll try to set the scene for the generalization of FFT to locally compact abelian groups. Suppose G is such a group, and if F is a function from group G to the complex numbers. Then there's a construction called the dual group 2G, call it H, and the Fourier transform outputs a function from H to the complex numbers. Function from H to the complex numbers. Interesting. He's probably done group theory, though, as a physicist. Honestly, I didn't do group theory as a physicist. It wasn't a class that I went through. So it's not something that I know so much about. Like, I've done some computational group theory just for my own interest, but that's as far as I've been. I did my original classes didn't cover any group theory, which admittedly is a bit of a shortcoming on my part. So let's look at 1 x 1 plus 1 imaginary. This is a complex number. I want to do real. Real is what I want. Real of x. That's what I want. Um, how do I just get, is it just re? I've got a feeling, didn't I just do real and imaginary at some point? I swear, I just took the real and imaginary components of something. Oh, it's lowercase. Ha! That's me being an idiot. Let's try this again. So we're going to change this to real lowercase and image lowercase. Okay, and now we're going to save this to a file. So we're going to save, and we're just going to call it transform matrix.png. Something like this should work just fine, and we're just going to say we're writing out A. Okay, we're saving this to a file. It'll be a 1000 by 1000 pixel image. Let's pop back over here. Hello. Dang it. Package.add. Dang it. I did it again. Quit here. Let's try this again. Package.add, and we're going to add in ImageMagick. I think it's capital. Yep. Okay. Give this guy a go. We're going to add it, precompile it, and then we'll go from there. I kept hearing about renormalization group relating it to neural networks. Have you heard about this? I haven't, but renormalization group is an incredibly interesting concept. It's something that's used all the time in, what is it? Like, what do they call it? There's like dense matrix renormalization group. It's one of the algorithms that I wanted to cover for quantum simulation. So it's something that I'm interested in. If you can give me more information, I can take a look and we can see what more information is available in the area, you know, because I'm sure there is more information. I just don't know anything about it. Okay, so let's try saving it one more time. Dang it, what's the error? File.io, home transformation couldn't be recognized by file.io. Okay. ls here, remove transform matrix.png. Try it again. Boom, look at that. Let's do Raj transform matrix.png. Ho, 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 that's ugly as crap. I can't tell anything about this. So here's our 1000. Is that our 1000 by 1000 matrix? No, that can't be. Is it? No, it's 100 by 100. Oh, 100 by 100 is correct. That is what we want. We want a 100 by 100 matrix. Yeah, I can't discern any type of information from this. In fact, why do we even have green at all? It shouldn't be green at all. No, this isn't our matrix. This is incorrect. That looks like me. Examples for dual groups. See if you can recognize them. Setting up FT. And the integers are dual to the circle. The real numbers are its own dual. Zmod n is dual to itself. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Too much to learn, too little time. Right? That is my overall problem. Like, there's just so much to do. It's so hard. Calculated content. Why deep learning works. The renormalization group. Oh, this is quite interesting. Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, fixed point. I know about renormalization group a bit. Honestly, I'm not going to say I'm a master of renormalization group. It's an incredibly complicated technique, but I will say that the basic concept I kind of have an understanding of. No, I assume this is the analytical renormalization group, not the dense matrix renormalization group, which is itself more complicated. Yeah, so if we were going to put something like this in the algorithm archive, we'd need a good section on the renormalization group. Which is so hard. You with firewood on your hands, burning? What do we have here? I suspect not too many physicists know locally compact abelian groups. I do synthetic gauge theory for my work. So this is something that I come across somewhat frequently. So gauge theory is, it's not, these are words I know. I'm not going to say I understand them heavily because I don't, but I will say that I do understand them a bit, and they're things that I need to learn more about. So I'm keen to learn more about them. Never come across normalization groups? They're difficult. They're weird. Like, so it's mainly in general relativity that you'll come across normalization groups. I think renormalization groups. And DMRG, dense matrix renormalization group, is a technique for studying basically, you could say spin flipping in ion chains, maybe? I guess more appropriately, it's spin flipping in... We did DMRG on stream one time, actually. It was an interesting time. So this is clearly not the matrix we output. It's interesting that Captain Prophet talks about donation. Yeah, I guess so. Let's see. ImageMagick. So it output the image. Let me just go ahead and take a look at... Oh, that's because I'm... A. Okay, so clearly we did something wrong here. Because when we did this for loop... Interesting. That is super interesting. I never gave it any values in green, but for some reason, it is putting values in green. So let me try this for loop again. We're just going to print out A. Yeah, see what I mean? Like, we basically said 100 by 100 array. Let me just output I. Hello there. I want to do, nope, that's not what I want to do. Is it Alt Enter? Yeah, that's what I want. So now in here, we're going to say, oh, hello. Come on. So we're going to say print line, and I just want to print line I. See if we're actually getting, no, it's only going to 100. That explains it. So we want 2 for loops here then. So we're going to do Alt Enter. And then down here, we're going to do another Alt Enter. Nope. Go back there. Now here, we're going to do an Alt Enter. Ah, dang it. I'm really bad at this. Alt Enter. Okay. So we're going to do end there. And in here, we're just going to remove this line entirely. So I need 2 for loops is a problem. So we're going to say for j equals, and we're going to do 1 to n again. Then in here, we're going to say, oop, hello there. We have the 2 for loops there, so we should just be able to do ij, I believe it's done like this. I don't know. We'll see. ij, comma j, and then I, comma j over here too. Okay, let me just do a, actually transform matrix. Well, let's do a of I, let's do 1, 1. Okay, well that seems to work. Element of type normed uint8 is an 8-bit type representing 250. Okay, I don't know what this error is at all. We'll kind of work on that. Let's see. I've stopped my studies after Master of Science. Yeah, that's fair enough. So again, I'm in the middle of a PhD now, so I'm somewhere around that level too. I know a bit of deep learning, and that normalization group stuff went in a direction I never heard of before. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? I think it's a unique application of kind of a physical process or a physical idea to deep learning. You know, I don't know so much about it. I'm going to have to look into it a bit on my own. Again, I kind of understand normalization group. I just don't understand much more. So it says argument error. Element type normed uint8 is an 8-bit type representing 256 values from 0 to 1, but the values of 0.99 do not lie within this range. Oh, okay. So then in that case, I'm going to have to, it'd be easier if I just absolute valued them. But okay, let's do this. Let's try to get the real and imaginary parts here. So I'm going to do absolute value of the real component. And I realize it's kind of cheating to do this, but I want to see if we can get, and let's do absolute value of the imaginary component. Because in principle, we should allow for positive and negative points, but let's just plot this out. And now we're going to do, where are you, babe? There you are. Okay, now let's take a look at the transformation matrix. Okay, this is closer to what I was expecting. Now this is quite interesting. So here is our discrete transformation matrix. What information can we glean from this? That is what I'm trying to figure out. And I don't know what information we can glean from this at all. Did you guys see this on Hacker News? I did not. Let's open that guy up. Algorithms. Oh, nice. Super interesting. Oh, it's good. Creative Commons? Nice, man. More information? Let's take a look at the book. Cool. I'm a fan. A good old-fashioned book on algorithms, which is probably better than our book right now, but that's okay. They serve different purposes, obviously. Yeah, interesting. I'm a fan. It's like a fractal. Yeah, this is the thing. I think I'm going to increase the resolution because I just don't like this resolution. So let's increase it to 1,000 by 1,000. So we're going to say n equals 1,000. Then we're going to just redefine all of our values as we have. So we'll say, where are you, babe? Come on. So we'll say n is this, and then we'll say k is n prime. And then we should be able to just look up, where do we have here? Our previous value in here, where we set a is equal to something. A, nope. Where are we here? B, oh, no. Where are you, man? NK, transformation. Oh, it's transformation matrix is what I call it. This guy's what I'm looking for here. So now we need to redefine A. So A is going to be equal to, A is an array, should be that. And now we're going to do the for loop we just had. And just for the sake of the argument, let me go ahead and remove this line here. Okay, enter there. And now we're going to plot that. So let's go ahead and plot that. So it's going to be, where is it? Save here. And now let's take a look at that image. Here we go. Here's our 1000 by 1000 image. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, what information can we glean from this? That's a very good question. Exact Whoa. Thank you so much for following, man. Really appreciate it. It's a pretty cool image. What was the output of to the DFT? So the output to the DFT was what you would expect. So it was the frequencies of the image. Let me rephrase this. So the DFT does basically the same computation as the regular Fourier transform, just in a discrete space. So here what we're looking at is the transformation matrix. So this is the thing that allows us to transform from real space or from time domain to frequency domain. So this is a weird imaginary thing. The red is going to be a high value in real space. The blue is going to be a high value in imaginary space. And so the purple is going to be some mix between the two. Now, I am not sure what we're looking at. I'm not gonna lie. So this means that I was expecting or hoping for some sort of transformation matrix that I could know, or I could look at and I could be like, oh, that looks like, you know, some sort of identity matrix or something like that. Like I was hoping for something we could see a bit more of. Okay, I'm lost. So what we're looking at here is a 2D space. Okay, so imagine that we take a very long, we take a sine wave that has 1,000 elements in it, right? So it's just a sine wave, a normal sine wave, but it has 1,000 elements in it, right? We multiply it by this matrix, and then after multiplying by this matrix, we get out basically a single peak in frequency space that is at 1. You know what I mean? I want to know what the input of the DFT is, sine wave 1 kilohertz. Yeah, basically, it's just a sine wave of 2 pi. That's what we'd read in here. But this transformation matrix is it's independent of what we're reading in and out, right? So this is actually just what the transformation is. This is what the transformation matrix is for the DFT. So this is just the e to the 2 pi I k x terms. And I was hoping, again, to get some sort of unique visual understanding of what it is that this is doing. But I'm not able to do that immediately, which kind of sucks. I mean, it's a cool image, don't get me wrong. Like, it is very interesting. Let me just go ahead and create a function. I'm going to create a function that basically defines our DFT matrix and plots it out. That's all it's going to do. Just define a DFT matrix and plot it out. And in this way, I'm hoping to kind of change the resolution, and we go from there. It's not simple even as an image. Yeah, it's definitely not. The whole thing is just complicated. I'm going to zoom in just a bit. Zoom in a bit more. Yeah, so what I'm interested in is whether these purples actually exist. Oh wow, that's gonna give someone a seizure. I'm really sorry about that. I'm interested to see whether these purples actually exist or if they're just there. Whew. Okay, that's hard to look at. Let's lower the resolution a bit. We need to do something with a couple of values. I agree. So I'm gonna create a function real quick that outputs a DFT matrix of a much smaller value. So let's go ahead and basically take this stuff that I just did over there in the Julia shell, and I'm just going to create a function for it. So let's go into VI, let's call it dft_out.jl, we'll call it. And in here, we're just going to create a basic function that just says function dft out, and it's going to read in a single variable, which is going to be n, which is going to be the resolution of our signal that we're reading in. So this is going to be an int64. Okay, we're going to end the function down here, and let's go ahead and put in everything we need. So we're going to say, similar to what we did before with all these definitions, we're basically just taking each of these lines. So we're already reading in n. So the next thing we're going to say, our real space component, and you know, I'm sorry about the notation here. The notation here is crap, but I'm just going to go with it. So we're going to say lowercase n is going to be equal to 0 to n minus 1. And we're going to say k is going to be equal to n prime, which is again the transpose of n. 1 second. And come on, I can do this, n prime. Now we're going to say, I think the next one is just a transformation matrix. Yep, transformation matrix, which is there, and we'll go ahead and take that. So the transformation matrix here, we've defined the transformation matrix. Okay, cool. And now I actually think I might also want to put in a string here. So we'll call it function name, output file. Yeah, we'll call it output file. So we can take a look at a couple of these guys together. We need a couple of values. I agree with you. I'm not sure what it is we need to look at here, but we need to get a better understanding of what's happening. So transform matrix here. So we've defined the transformation matrix, and we have the output file, which should just be a string, but I don't remember. Is it just string in Julia? I don't remember what it is in Julia. So now we're going to define our array A, and we're just going to output that array. So we're going to have here, this is our array. Good, put that here. Enter. Now we have our for loops. Yep, here. Let's just go ahead and copy these guys, paste them over there. We're going to have a weird copy-paste error, but it's easy enough to fix. Oh, never mind. Seems like we didn't. Nice. Okay, so now we have that. And let me actually get the spacing right here. The spacing is driving me nuts here. Something like that. There. There. I think that's right, but I think that's 3 spaces. No, that's correct. No, I'm off by a space. There and there. Okay, cool. I can modify this a bit more, but I'm okay with this for now. So now we have that. Now we just have to output the file, and the file is going to be output to just here. So it's going to be save of transform matrix .png. So this is just going to be output file, and it's going to be a cool something like this. So this is going to be our DFT out function, and we should be able to read that in. Now I think I can just go ahead and assign this to be a string. Okay, hey there, string there. So let's just go ahead and read that in. So we're going to include, and it should just be dft out.jl. Int64 is not a valid. Yeah, I forgot a colon there. Okay, let's give this guy a go. Include dft out. So if we do dft out, and let's just do a couple of these guys. So we're going to say of size, let's do 16. And then it's going to be a size 16, and we're going to call the output file dft16.png. Okay. DFT, oh, it's DFT out, underscore out. Let's give that a go. So we'll do 16, 32, and we'll call this 32. 64. 1 second, 64. Just keep going up, 128. And then we already have the 1,000 at the end. So this should be okay to get us started, right? And quit. And let's do Mirage transform. I think I called it DFT underscore. Let's do 64 first. So here's our 64 image, and honestly, it doesn't look too much different. Let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. Okay, so I zoomed in a lot here. So this is just 64 pixels. If we go up a bit, oh, sorry. So here's 64 pixels. No, that's 128. So here's 16. And again, it's just like a super small version of what we had before. Here's 64. Oh, 32. 64. 128. And then, of course, 1,000 by 1,000. Yeah, so I got no information from that at all. 23, Hagbard 23, thank you so much for following. I apologize for missing that a few minutes ago. Okay, so yeah, like, this is completely not understandable to me. I have no idea what I'm looking at. Ah, geez, that's such a pain in the butt. So what is this transformation that we're looking at here? What if we change what we're outputting a bit? Okay, so what if we just output the, absolute value squared of the two of them together? Like, what if we just output something completely different? So let's go into the DFT out function, and let me just comment this guy out real quick. Ooh, that is not correct commenting. So I'm gonna output something else. Yank paste. I know some stuff about 2D Fourier transforms. What is this? So what we're looking at right now is we're looking at the transformation matrix, and I know it's gonna be very hard to glean information off of here. I'm just trying to see what we can look at. It's the transformation matrix. Basically between between time domain and frequency domain. So it is, let's take a look here. It is this transformation matrix here. So when you do the discrete Fourier transformation, you basically multiply your value by some transformation matrix, and we're looking at that transformation matrix. And I'm just seeing if there's any type of information we can glean here. I'm trying to get a good intuitive feel for what it is we're doing with the discrete Fourier transform. In a way that we can kind of easily just sell to people, you know? Because in the end, this discrete Fourier transform base is kind of what we look at when we're doing the FFT in the end. Because in the end, we're going to be doing a small scale transformation. It's known as kind of, like, I guess it's a twiddle or something like that. We're doing a small scale version of this matrix for the FFT method, right? So we need to kind of get a good intuition for what this matrix is. And it's hard to do so. I don't think we're going to be able to get an intuition just by looking at this matrix, but I'm going to try one more thing. And so I guess what I'm going to do is change this to a 0. Change this to a 0, 2. And this value will be a bit different. So let's change this to a 0 there. Let's change this so it is now the abs2 dot of transformation matrix. And I guess we don't really need the dot here. I think we can just do abs2 here. Oop. There, transformation matrix of ij. Yep. And let's just write that. And I'm going to do DFT out. DFT out, but I'm going to call it 16. No color. And let's do the same for 128. No color. I know I called it no color, but technically it's going to be green. Don't sue me. Right, quit. So let's go here to Mirage DFT 64. Let's take a look. So we should have a green guy. Oh, that's not what I was expecting at all. I think I need to include this function again one more time. Include here. And now let's do DFT out 128. Transformation matrix not defined. Nice. Let's take a look. DFT out, transformation matrix. Transformation. Oh, that's because I called it transform matrix. Try it again, one more time. Transform matrix, let's go. Include this guy. Here. Include. I think I got something obvious for some. You're transforming 2D space into 1D space. Nope. I'm transforming a 1D space to another space in 1D. So it's going to be like, again, it's two different ways to represent the same image. So we're transforming something that looks like a sine wave that you expect to a single peak in frequency space. So the idea is we're going from, again, just some sort of weird sinusoidal signal, something like this, to a single peak. And again, going back to the visualization we showed earlier, is literally just this. So we have some sort of weird mess of signals up here, and this corresponds to 3 unique peaks in the frequency domain. So again, as these change up here, this changes down here. So why do you need a matrix and not a vector? Because the frequency domain image is a matrix between, basically it's a 2D matrix where one dimension is in real space, the other dimension is in imaginary space. So to do this transformation, we're actually multiplying it by this e to the 2 pi I x value right here. So e to the negative 2 pi I k x. And so what we're plotting right now is that value right there, this value here, the e to the negative 2 pi I k x. So that DFT transformation is for the 1D DFT, and wonder is the same for more dimensions. So for higher dimensions, it's pretty similar. I've done higher dimensional FFTs before, or higher dimensional DFTs before. It's similar, it's just then it becomes a 4D space for a 2D and a 6D space for 3D. And we can't really plot those very easily. So this is just our 1D transformation here. But if you want to do something more complicated, you totally can. It's just hard to do here. And I don't know, I've got a feeling I lost everyone with this, so I apologize for that. So let's go ahead and output some stuff over here, 128, and we're gonna output 16. And now let's take a look at these guys. DFT 64, and we should see, yes, so yeah, cool. That's about what I was expecting. Okay, so that's interesting. So if we just plot the absolute value of our DFT matrix that we're outputting, it's always equal to 1 everywhere across the board. It's always equal to 1. But if we modulate between the real and imaginary components, it shifts between red and blue. So that's very interesting. It means that obviously there's something very unique happening with the imaginary components here. So that's something we should keep in mind. There's a real and imaginary value isn't 2D transformation. If there's a real and imaginary value isn't a 2D transformation. I guess in some ways you're right. Like, in some ways we're transforming. We're doing a rotation into imaginary space is basically what we're doing. So we're doing some sort of transformation out of the plane that we're talking about, and that's kind of what we're working with. You know what this makes me think of? This standing wave on a plate, apparently called I think I've heard of this before. Let me see what we have. Oh, yeah, no, I've seen these before. So there's that guy, I don't remember his name, but he's some British guy, and he did these type of things. So you basically take a giant metal plate, you put sand on top of it, and you kind of like strum it in just the right way in order to basically put the sand in the right directions. It's actually really cool. It's super interesting, and it is vaguely related to this, actually. In fact, it's probably pretty closely related, because you could probably get out the frequencies of this guy. It's super cool. Okay. So the definition of this transformation is quite interesting. Yes, it is. What transformation are we talking about here? Oh, you're talking about the DFT thing. Yeah, That's the thing. I'm trying to get a better intuitive understanding for what the DFT matrix is, the transformation matrix is. And I'm not able to really get that. So like I said, like we just showed, if we perform, let's show the difference in code between these two images so you have a good understanding of what we're talking about. So if we go back to the code that we just had, let's take a look here. Let's go into dft-out.jl. I basically plotted two different things. One, I plotted a plot where all of the real components are in red and all the imaginary components are in blue. The other one, I plotted all the elements in green by just performing an absolute value squared of the transformation matrix, basically turning everything into real space. Now, if I turn everything into real space, it's all just green. It's all just one big green image, right? But if I modulate between real and imaginary space, then you get this guy over here. And it's very hard for me to understand what this means. So I'm going to see if I can find some more intuitive, a better intuitive understanding for what the DFT is. And then we can go from there. Man. We went from Rambaleos to something completely not understandable. So maybe I should do better with that in the future. The thing that gets me about this is that in all of these images, every single one of them, well, maybe not that one, that's maybe too low resolution. Also too low resolution. There's this weird cross figure that's being created here. Do you see what I'm saying? It's I don't know how to put it, but there's a variation between the real and imaginary space there such that you see this cross pattern appear in the noise. And here it's you even see the cross thing here, right? But the thing with the cross is if I zoom in, let me just zoom in a bit. It's just high variations between real and imaginary space. Let me zoom in. Sorry. Keep zooming in a bit more. And let's move up here a bit. Oh, crap. Oh, there it is. I can't find it. I can't find what I was looking for. But basically, my point is, it's still this checkerboard pattern. It's always very quickly increasing and decreasing from real and imaginary space, right? Like, we never have a point that's actually purple, I don't think. I think all these purple guys, I don't think they're actually real. I think it's just a very quick variation from real and imaginary space that's hard to understand. I'm not sure. This is something I'm going to have to look into. I'm not sure what makes one thing, what makes another thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could just be aliasing or something like that. I'm not sure. The DFT transformation matrix, don't know if I should spoil, but the matrix components are understandable, but I don't entirely understand it yet. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's see, algorithm archive. Is it like geometry when you translate a shape from one plane to another? Sorry, it's just really late here. I'm asking a lot of questions. Nope, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're translating from... again, frequency space, or we're translating from time domain. So basically, we're translating from a sine wave to something that's just outside. It's like, imagine going from a 1D space to a 2D space, and we're performing this transformation such that we're rotating into the imaginary plane. And I think that's what we're looking at here. Okay, so I don't know how much information we can glean from this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this code up on the Simuleos directory on GitHub. So I'm going to cd into projects Simuleos FFT. And let me just move the file over here. So we're going to move, and I think it was projects, algorithm archive, contents, Cooley Tukey, I want to say then DFT code, one second, code, Julia, DFT out, I believe. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. DFT out.jl. I'm going to put it here, and we're going to do git add DFT out.jl, git commit -m, creating a quick plot for the transformation matrix, matrix. Okay, git push. Oh, now we do git push origin master. So if you're interested and you want to look at this a bit more, just feel free to go to the Simuleos directory on GitHub where we have more information. Like that's where I put the info. That's where I put this guy right here. So it's going to be in the. I'll show it to you right now. It is in the. Where are we? Algorithm archive. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my own directory, your profile. And then I'm looking for Simuleos. 1 second, should be in here somewhere. Simuleos here. And it should be in FFT here. So then the code I just created was dft-out.jl right here. That's where we're at. So we still have more information that we need to understand about the FFT method. We have more information we need to understand about Fourier transforms in general. Like, there's a lot of stuff here that I just need to get a better intuitive grasp for, which I just don't have. And there's stuff like that that I just need to figure out. And that's okay. That's how you learn. You learn by just tinkering with stuff until it kind of makes intuitive sense. And then you keep going with that. So you know, today's stream was a bit weird. We went from, you know, a lot of rambling at the start to a little bit of rambling, working on the FFT method and stuff like that, losing everyone because no one has any idea what's happening. It's okay. That's how it goes. I think this might be a good place to stop though. So we have this point. We're at this point now where we have a good kind of we have the ability to plot out our FFT or our DFT matrix, right? Which is maybe a weird place to stop, but it's okay. I think it's an okay place to stop. Okay, so now the question is, has the same image you generated plot? Yep, that's exactly what it should be. It should be the same image. Pyro ESP. Yep, this is basically the same thing that we just had. The real part, but they have the real part and the imaginary part plotted separately. I have them plotted at the same time. Let me see what they say, actually. This is. Let me just see what they say here. So if we make a very large matrix with complex exponents, exponentials in the rows, and increase the resolution without bound, we approach the kernel of the Fredholm integration equation of the second kind, namely the Fourier operator that defines the continuous Fourier transform. A rectangular portion of this continuous Fourier operator can be displayed as an image analogous to the DFT matrix as shown at the right. Yeah, okay. So the Fourier operator then. Yeah, so I've seen this definitely before. This is something that you put onto, what are they called? There's some sort of, we have one full period of sine wave, right? Yeah, I think you're correct. I think that might be why we're getting two of them. We need to look into this a bit more. So yeah, let me see. So the fact that we were getting four individual plots is a bit weird. Yeah, it could be because we're plotting a full sine wave. Yeah, that could be it. In which case, I guess what I want to try to do is generate just this plot here. Like I'm gonna want to try to generate this plot instead of the plot we have been generating. And I think that's what we should be looking into. So if we can figure out how to generate this plot, we can figure out what the Fourier operator is, and then we get kind of this idea of what the DFT is. And this is something that I think does give people a good intuition as to what it is that we're looking at here. I know that this plot is hard to see, but I guess if we say that this is some sort of operator and basically we're looking at this in discrete space, cool. Okay. So here's frequency, here's time. So the Fourier operator defines a continuous two-dimensional function that extends along time and frequency axes, outwards to infinity in all four directions. This is analogous to the DFT matrix, but in this case, it is continuous and infinite in extent. The value of the function at any point is such that it has the same magnitude everywhere along any fixed value of time. The value of the function varies as a complex exponential in frequency. Likewise, along any value of frequency, the value of the function varies as a complex exponential in time. A portion of the infinite Fourier operator is shown in the illustration below, which depicts how it acts on a regular pulse to generate its Fourier transform. Any slice parallel to either of the axes through the Fourier operator is a complex exponential, i.e. the result of a cosine wave, and the imaginary part is a sine wave of the same frequency as the output. Diagonal slices of the Fourier operator give rise to chirps. Thus, rotation of the Fourier operator gives rise to fractional Fourier transform. Whoa, that's super cool, which is related to the chirplet transform. What? No. Oh man, that's so cool. Oh man. Jeez, that's so cool. If you made a square wave like that, then maybe we get the image seen there. See, that's the thing. The Fourier operator is independent of the wave that we put in. You know, it doesn't matter what wave we put in, we get the same thing out. But I think I might understand some of this now. I think the whole FFT shift thing, you know, the fact that we create two peaks in frequency space when we should only create one peak in frequency space, I think maybe there's something weird going on here. And I think we need to kind of think a bit more about this plot. I honestly want to take some more time to look into this because there's some information here that I'm just missing and I'm not sure what it is. There's something here, like we're so close to understanding it, but we're just not there yet. So I think I might come back tomorrow and do that. But I think right now it's probably a good place to go ahead and stop for today's stream because again, we've got our plot. It looks a bit funky. It definitely looks a bit funky, but we're getting there. What do you mean by creating two peaks? I don't get it. When I do, let's say A, what is A? A is that. So let me just go ahead and create another matrix, which we'll call oscillation. We'll call it os. It's going to be equal to sine of 2 pi, 2 pi times I divided by n. Yeah, it should work. For I equals 1 to n. Should work. And so now if we do plot os, we'll get using plots. Give it a second to recompile some stuff. Usually, let's see. Normally you S shift the FFT, so you get the 0 low frequencies at the center. I'm not sure if that applies similar to this case. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not sure either. We kind of need to look at this. So what I mean by that is if we plot the oscillation here, we should see a sine wave. Give it a second to plot. I think we have 1,000 n, so give it just a second. It's recompiling the package and stuff like that in the background, so just give it a second to plot. And then I'll show you the 2 peaks by our ESP. And then I think maybe this is related to that. You mean the position and negative peak of the sine wave? Yeah, this is basically what I'm talking about. So I think maybe there's something here. You know, I'm not sure. So here's our sine wave, right? And then if we do plot, how about the abs squared of FFT of oscillation, we get, what? I think that was correct. Using FFTW. Now we plot that. Then we get these 2 peaks. So there's 1 peak here, and then there's 1 peak over here. So that's what I meant by the 2 peaks. We get these 2 peaks in frequency space. It's kind of hard to, it's hard to understand really intuitively, in my opinion. So this is something we need to look into. So maybe there's something weird going on there that we need to think about. Because if you look at this image here that they have on Wikipedia, here's their frequency space image and here's their time space image. And I think theirs is already shifted. I think the shift has already happened in their frequency space image, because I think if we generated this, we would get 1 peak that's here and another peak that's here. Let me make this a bit bigger. So I think if we generated this right now, we'd get a peak here and a peak there. But unfortunately, I got to go for now. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. So I really do need to go. But we'll come back tomorrow and we'll try to figure out a bit more about this. Maybe have a little bit more Ramboleos, because I tend to do a lot of that nowadays. So let's see. Isn't that the quirk of the FFT algorithm that mirrors the lower half into the upper half? See, this is something I don't understand so well. That I need to learn a bit more of. Because everyone says it's the quirk of the FFT algorithm, but in my experience, that's not the case. It's a quirk of the DFT itself that has that happening. Because if we just perform the DFT on this, I'll try to find it in my files. Because if we just perform a basic DFT, it also has the 2 peaks, so far as I remember. But let's just go ahead and try that out real quick. So we have the FFT slow. Let me just go into the, actually, let's CD into the algorithm archive, because I think I can show this right now. So if we do the regular FFT chapter here, okay, and we go to, oh, this isn't up. Let me just go to algorithm archive. Algorithm archive, algorithmarchive.org. Let's go to the FFT chapter right here. Again, it needs to be updated. But let's just go down to the Julia chapter down here, and let me see. So down here we have the Julia chapter, and in the main function, we perform Cooley-Tukey, iterative Cooley-Tukey, in the FFT. Ah, I see. I never actually tested against the DFT. So let's just perform a DFT real quick, and we'll see. Yeah, but see, if the DFT does it, then we're talking about a fundamental problem with the FFT, with the Fourier transform itself, not just the FFT, right? Because then it's a bit different. So we have this VI FFT mirror and DFT explained. You want to do an FFT of above. Let me see. DFT. Let's go up a couple times. It would be nice if you edit your answer to be more responsive to the question, which is about DFTs, although it says FFTs in the title. Okay. The FFT algorithm is actually an algorithm for the computation of the discrete Fourier transform. The typical implementation. Let me just perform a quick DFT. Okay, just before we leave, I'll do a quick DFT, and then we'll see how this goes. Check the first answer. Yeah, I did look at the first answer, but this was all about FFTs. It wasn't exactly. I'll take a look at it in a bit. So let's CD into projects, Simuleos, algorithm archive. Here, LS here, and let's CD into contents, and I'm looking for What directory am I in over here? PWD? Oh, that didn't help me. So content's Cooley Tookie. CD into code, Julia, which I think is correct. L is here. And we should have include fft.jl. Give that a second to run. True, true. So now we should have a DFT slow. DFT, do we not? DFT. I do have a function DFT. So let's see what happens if we just do DFT of oscillation. Yeah, so even performing the DFT, which is literally just this function here, we still get the 2 peaks. So those 2 peaks, it doesn't have to do with the FFT. It has to do with something to do with the DFT, the discrete Fourier transform. So there's something more going on there. It's not just an FFT thing. Yeah. Because again, the DFT is literally just this function here. It's the same function we were just applying. Your peak is at frequency 0. No, the peak is at frequency 1. Frequency 0 is your DC offset. Wait, algorithms, heck and title. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is what it is. Let's see. Check the first answer. No, the frequency is at 1. So if we increase, let's change the oscillation real quick. So let's change, what do we have here? Oscillation. Let's change this to 10 times that. And now we're going to plot the absolute value there. So it increased a bit. It's just that because of the resolution. So if I zoom in here, can I zoom in? How do I zoom in? I don't know how to zoom in with this plot. I'm not sure. But it's at 10, not 0. It's slightly off. It's just that we have 1,000 elements. So it's a bit weird. I need to subtract 1 from everything. Thanks. Unassigned floats. Why do you exist? I've hit DC peak issues with some SDR stuff. That was fun. Oh, wait. You peak. Yeah, so it's a bit weird. This is definitely something we need to look into more. Unfortunately, guys, I do have to go for now. So let's see, who do we want to host at the end of stream? We have Deedle, Jamie Pine live. Let's see, CA2 live. How about we can do Jamie Pine. I think he's fine. I'm sorry I keep paying taxes. I know you just came in. I know you did, but like, I gotta go. I'm sorry about that. I have to get ready for work since today is definitely a work day and I have to get in. So. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming in. Again, I'll be back at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll try to look more into this DFT stuff. I'll look into it some tonight. We'll see if we can get a better intuitive description for what it is that we're looking at. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Have a wonderful day, night, afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it happens to be your time. And I will see you around next time for the next episode of Simulaos, where we keep working on the DFT stuff, maybe do a bit of Ramboleos here and there. A lot of stuff left to do, so I'm pretty excited to see where we go. Thank you guys so much for coming in, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.